turned smack rapper. Only smack rapper that you know is smack rapper.
All right, we back. My expert opinion. Today we have a special guest. When you talk about the history of New York City, when you talk about streets and politics, there's not many people that can cross over from one side to the other. But today we have someone who knows both sides very well. And he's actually running for mayor right now. Curtis Sliwa is in the building. My bad. I don't know where I got Adam from.
Well, I ran against Eric Adams 2021. It was just me and him. And
Right.
I said in the two debates, there will be chaos, there will be corruption. I've known him for 40 years. Everybody says, come on, Curtis. Now everybody pats me on the back so hard I got to go for a chiropractic adjustment. So if I was right then, you think I'm right now? That's what I always flip on people. It's like, why wouldn't you listen to me now? I was right all along the way about Eric Adams, the most corrupt mayor in the history of New York City. And that's saying a lot. We've had a lot of corrupt mayors.
Wow. Well, in your opinion, who was the best mayor that we've had?
Oh, for me, it was Rudy Giuliani.
Giuliani.
I was his apprentice. I campaigned for him in '89 when he lost to Dinkins fair and square, and I campaigned for him when he won against Dinkins in '93 fair and square. And what a lot of people don't know about those elections is that the racial tension that ousted Ed Koch, because they always want to run, for 3 terms, 4 terms. It's like, that's it. That's why we have term limits now. Koch wanted to run for a 4th term. We had so many racial problems. We had Howard Beach. We had Yusuf Hawkins. We would go on and on and on and on. Right. And he wouldn't leave. So David Dinkins challenged him in a Democratic primary and beat him decisively. Everybody said, this is good. First African-American mayor. He's going to bring peace, racial healing. Except they didn't realize that David Dinkins was a man that everybody respected. They liked him. He was like your grandfather. But, man, he wasn't up to the job. I mean, 2,000 killings a year, 10,000 unsolved shootings. So Rudy ran against him first in '89. He was the U.S. Attorney, Southern District. The polls said the day before, because there was no early voting, that he would lose by 14 points. He lost by 2 points. 60% of the registered voters showed up. By '93, only 57% of the registered voters showed up. He won by 2%. Very close election. Right. And people say, oh, it was all the white people in Staten Island, they wanted secession. They all came out. No. You do what they call the pullouts, the analytics of the election. David Dinkins was loved in Southeast Queens. First African-American mayor. Right. Very dignified, like I said. Spoke well, none of the thuggish ways like of Eric Adams. You would never catch David Dinkins hanging out in a club till the break of dawn. No. He's a gentleman, but well-dressed. Right. I mean, he went to A.J. Lester's in Harlem. A.J. Lester's, that's the place you used to go. Him, Charlie Rangel, Basil Patterson, who was the father of Governor Patterson, and then the head of inner city broadcasting, Percy Sutton. The 4 of them, they were dressed to the nines, but gentlemen. But he wasn't ready to handle a city that was out of control. And so Rudy won barely.
At that time, we're talking about the crack era. We're talking about unemployment. We're talking about buildings burning. Rudy Giuliani coming in after that. What are the qualities that you think that Rudy Giuliani had that made him the best man?
He focused on specifics. So, for instance, you were drinking a beer and it wasn't in a paper bag. Cops grab you, take you to the precinct. You've never been locked up before. You're like sweating. DTs come over and say, hey, what's going on in the neighborhood? What can you tell me that we don't know? And you're figuring, oh my God, I'm going to get jammed up. I may go upstate. And you start all of a sudden, you're blabbering about bait and switch, drug dealers here. And they're writing down their notes, saying all we're going to give you is a disappearance ticket. Right. Just show up at a court date. The guy or the gal never realized that if they just stay cool, calm, and collected, they were going to get a disappearance ticket and walk out. Right. But it worked on them psychologically because most people have never been jammed up. They've never been arrested. They don't know what it's like to go into a precinct. In fact, walking into a precinct, even if you're just there to report crime, you're not somebody accused of crime, is they treat you like, what kind of dreck? There's a Yiddish word, dreck, like what you have on the bottom of your shoes.
Yeah.
They don't want to deal with you. It's not like you're a client, you come in, well, how can I help? They ignore you. I mean, how many times I've seen people walk in, not my job, no, not my job, so then you walk out the door.
Right.
Because they know you're there to report crime, and that's going to make the precinct look bad.
Right.
But if you're a criminal, remember, it used to be that if you walked in and you gave the cops a lip, you got a wooden shampoo.
Wooden shampoo.
Wooden shampoo.
We're gonna hear a lot of these terms tonight.
Remember, it wasn't just their baton, their nightstick. They had truncheons, they had blackjacks. Man, they put a beating on you.
Yeah.
And so there was the code of the streets that prevailed. But what Rudy did, he said zero tolerance. Lock them up for simple things. And they will give up information that will lead to bigger things, even though you were never really in serious violation. Most people didn't know that. Mm-hmm. Most people think they can outsmart the DTs. I got locked up one time in the 73rd precinct. Mm-hmm. They thought, because I was the only white guy living in Brownsville, that it must have been me that killed this guy, because the description was a white guy.
Right.
So they're playing good cop, bad cop. No. You never win that game. You immediately say, I refuse to speak. I have the right to an attorney. I can't tell you how many, especially brothers who've been watching too many movies and TV, think that they're going to do better than two DTs who sweat people down for a living. You have a right to an attorney. Always use that, because you can talk yourself into double trouble.
Can you say that again for all the rappers out there?
Please.
Say that one more time.
Drill rappers, whatever you are, you may be very good at what you do in rap, but these DTs, they've studied psychology, good cop, bad cop, and they will spin you. And by the way, they will get one of your homies to be crying to his mommy, and they will give you up in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. Don't play with the PD. You're an American citizen. Even if you're a migrant, you still are entitled to have an attorney. Now, look, I'm the guy who goes out and believe you got to lock up criminals, but you have rights too. Right. And there is proper procedure. Everybody is entitled to their day in court, due process, whether you're a citizen or a migrant. And that's really what our Constitution guarantees. So why wouldn't you avail yourself of that? Look at the Central Park Five. I thought they were guilty. I had to end up apologizing when the facts came out that it was another guy whose DNA was on the underwear of the poor woman who was beaten and raped. And he said, no, that was me. And I saw the film of these kids.
Right.
That were even their parents, but their parents didn't know. Mm-hmm. These cops are using psychology. Look, cops get promoted for the number of arrests they make.
Right.
Not for writing tickets. So they'll use psychology. And some of them think they're doing the right thing, but in reality, sometimes they're jamming people up. How many times have you seen people do 25 years because somebody jammed them up, and then all of a sudden, DNA, it wasn't you.
Right. So if you were in this position, let's say you are elected.
Right.
What would you do about the corruption in the police department and the racial tension? Because during Giuliani's time, there was a lot of racial tension, and I feel like a lot of officers were getting out of hand in that time. They were abusing their power.
Oh yeah. Well,
how would you stabilize that?
Well, let's look at the case of Abner Louima. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Grabbed outside of a Haitian club, Flatbush, taken to the 70th precinct for a tombstone. Mm-hmm. Two guys who were all roided up. Schwartz, and I forget the
Justin Volpe.
Right. I mean, roided. You look at them in their high school graduation photos, they're like, normal look. They're all roided up. Mm-hmm. Because if you're a gigantor in the streets, you get respect. I don't care if you're black or white or any shape. If you're a gigantor in the streets, you get respect.
Right.
If you're a skinny Bellini, you get no respect. But those steroids, they get to your head. And what they did to Abner Louima, even cops who've been on the job couldn't believe that. In the bathroom, you took a plunger and you raped the guy anally over and over? Are you out of your mind? And then all hell broke loose.
Yeah.
And people were upset. Mm-hmm. But you see, when you're a man or a woman in blue, you got to take the rap for some of the bad cops, unfortunately, because there's the blue wall of silence. We got to eliminate the blue wall of silence. Now, they have Internal Affairs Bureau, IAB. Everybody hates the IAB because they think, you know, they're going to snitch you out as a cop. Look, if you got bad cops in the ranks, you got to get rid of them because then everybody thinks you're bad. I remember in the age of crack, they would not. This is Koch and Benjamin Ward, who was the police commissioner. They would not let uniformed cops make drug arrests. And we had a headquarters right in Times Square, 46 and 8. And guys who were selling crack by the handful, uniformed cops would pass by. They weren't permitted to make busts. It was right there. Because they said, no, you call the precinct DTs, you know, who are part of the drug, you know, enforcement squad. They'll come, they'll make the arrest. Too late. Then people see this and they think, oh, cops are on the tape. They're not making busts of drugs, drug dealers and that. Being a cop, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because there are always going to be a few who break the rules. It's important we create a mechanism so you can freely out anybody who's violating the rules. But there's a blue wall of silence. It's just like in everything. Snitches get stitches and end up in ditches, no matter where you go. I'm the biggest rat that ever lived. I've eaten more Parmesan cheese. I'm a two-legged rat. I've ratted out more bad guys, and they would say to me, man, you're nothing but a rat. I said, yeah, and I love that Parmesan cheese. I have some Gambino guys who came up to me at the 3rd Avenue Festival, right? It's the annual festival, Bay Ridge. And these guys came up to me. I had my oldest son with me, who's a guardian angel now.
Right.
They surrounded us.
Anthony, correct?
Anthony, right, who almost died, a vicious gang beatdown. But he was walking with us, and they come up to me and said, man, you a rat. And I say to them, yeah, I love to eat the Parmesan cheese. They say that's an ethnic slur. What, Parmesan cheese? Should I said cheddar cheese? So right away.
So wait. These guys, they pointed out that I was an ethnic slur.
Yes, Parmesan cheese.
To who though?
All right, cool.
To who?
Italians. So they're reaching for their blades. My oldest son goes up there and says, put up your dukes. And I'm proud, but I realize his mother will kill me if anything happens to him.
Right.
And they looked at him, and they said to some of our guys, who the hell is this kid? That's Sliwa's son. And so they were ready to, like, jump. And then some of the older, wiser guys in the crowd chilled them out. But these guys had just gotten out of jail. They clearly had guys who went to jail because I ratted them out. And so they wanted to settle the beef in the middle of the street festival. And the cops suddenly disappeared. They were scared. These were bad, bad boys.
Right.
So that's the kind of life that I've lived.
Well, let's go back to that. The Magnificent 13.
Yes.
79 was it that it started?
1979.
What inspired this?
Well, I'm a night manager at Mickey D's. I had been living in Brownsville, Brooklyn, 74, 76 on Osborne and Hegeman. In fact, I have a first Republican headquarters ever in Brownsville, and people were like, oh, they're going to burn that down. They're going to break the windows. No, they're not.
Right.
You know, people were entitled to two parties. You choose what party or other parties. Right. No, because I lived there. Everybody knows me there. But I worked at Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company, AMP. I was the head of the pack-out crew at night, Forster Avenue, Rockaway Parkway, across from the 69th precinct. But they started folding up stores. So last hired, first fired. So I get fired. I'm sitting there with my wife, her maiden name Corinne Drayton. She was from the Virgin Island. And I'm looking at the Daily News when it used to be fat on Sunday and in the back. I mean, fat with advertising. Now it's like one sheet.
Yeah, one sheet.
So I see, managers wanted McDonald's in the Bronx. I said, well, the train is right there, Rockaway. I'm going to take it way up to the Bronx. I go with my portfolio. Spare
you had a portfolio for McDonald's.
Yeah, I had a portfolio. I had done a number of things as a kid, nationally recognized. He goes, I'm not interested in that. We just had a guard shot and killed in a robbery at East Fordham and Webster, and the manager won't come in at night. I need to get you trained up. Are you willing to go there? I said, certainly.
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 Why did you say certainly?
Well, because I knew more about being a bouncer than I did about being a manager at a Mickey D's because I was good with my hands.
Right.
So they trained me basically, max fries, strawberry shakes. Yeah, okay. I hated that job with a passion. Man, I hated Mickey D's.
Yeah.
So then they transferred me to East Fordham Road in Webster. I'm the night manager. And the manager is the mad Chinaman Don Chen. He is this huge Chinese guy. He's about 280 pounds, 6'2". He had been a member of the Savage Skulls. He had all the pictures and that. And he sits me aside and he goes, look, the guard unfortunately got shot and killed, and the manager at night quit. You could either do it Ray Kroc's way, the McDonald's way, or you could do it the Don Chin way. If you do it the McDonald's way, I'll give you the best eulogy you ever had. We'll have 6 people carry your casket, but you're going to be dead.
Right.
You do it my way. So you hire your crew to cover your back. Because that's when gangs would come in and out. They'd wreck the place. The moment those gang guys came in with their colors, the rockets and the patches, you knew they were up to no good. Mm-hmm. If you showed any fear, they'd rob you. They put a sawed-off shotgun to your head, and you had better been able to turn the chambers on that safe. Because if you missed the click, you would be going to your maker.
Wow.
So he said, when they come in, you have to have a crew that's going to go over the counter. Because they'll understand you're not soft. And he goes, the biggest problem you got? I said, what's that, Don? You're white. And most of the people here are black and Hispanic. And they're going to think they can roll on you. I said, okay. So I learned from the best. When you came into the cooking area there, because I couldn't cook a burger if my life depended on it. I had a black belt from Betty Crocker. I could cook to kill. But I knew how to manage people.
Right.
We had bats, sticks, pipes over the warmers.
To work at McDonald's.
Right. And I hired my closing crew. If you were just coming out of Rikers Island and you were tough, you were down. You were part of the crew.
You got the job.
Just had to be able to go over that counter. Now, it's not like I was going over the counter every minute, but towards like 12, midnight to 2, and I had to take the bag stuffed with the money across the street and put it in the night depository box. All the vultures and buzzards were eyeballing you because it was like $4,000. Everybody there wanted max fries, strawberry shakes, and there'd be lines out the door. And they had the Low East Theater up the hill near where Alexander's used to be. 3 kung fu flicks for $5. And they all thought that they were Bruce Lee coming in there. In fact, sometimes they were so cheated up, their eyeballs were like little slits. I said, watch this. They want max. And I would pull the meat out of the max and put more max sauce. And these guys, they had their $100, they had the Philly roll, $100 on the outside, all singles, so they pay right. And they bite into the mac. You could see them, and the mac sauce would go all over their face. And they loved their mac sauce. They didn't even know there was no meat. First vegetarian mac. Because it was so cheapened up. But that's what you had to do to survive.
That's why you had beef.
Yeah. That's right. That's what you had to do to survive.
Right.
And then, obviously, I developed friendship with a closing crew, and I started a cleanup group in the Bronx called the Rock Brigade, because my nickname was The Rock, because I could hit you so hard I could rock your world. Your mother would feel the vibration. So they called me Rock.
Right.
Rock Brigade, we cleaned up the Bronx, and then eventually I realized we're going home late at night. We're on that 4 train or that D train, because they all lived in different parts of the Bronx. I was still living in Brownsville, Brooklyn, so I had the longest ride.
Right.
And let me tell you, I'm sitting in that last car. I got my Mickey D's jacket on. I got my boom box. I'm sitting there, and they would come through with their Kangos, right? The reverse sheepskin coats. And they'd be singing, Manhattan makes it and Brooklyn takes it. And they'd be eyeballing me. So I had a
Some things don't change.
No.
Some things just don't change.
And then they surround you.
Right.
And, then they do the chicken dance. The chicken dance. Bam! And a lot of times they didn't expect that. Because I had the jacket, Mickey D's, I looked respectable. The boom, they
what
wanted
was you playing?
They wanted the boombox.
What were you bumping?
Greatest rap song in the world. I'm going to give you a selection. I want to let you. This is Curtis Lee with Jeopardy, Rap Jeopardy, in the Bronx where it all started. Grandmaster Flash of Furious 5. the greatest rap song of all time. I'm going to torture you two guys now.
What?
The Message.
The Message.
It was all about the Bronx.
Yeah.
It's all about what was going on.
Broken glass everywhere.
Right. And then there was Starsky, DJ Starsky. They were running jams in Roosevelt High School in the back, plugging into the light poles and doing their jams. And then they would come over late at night to the Mickey D's. Most times they were cool, calm, and collected. I got to meet most of them. They were pretty much all partied out by the time they got to Mickey D's. But when you're smoking that Chiba, you get the munchies.
Right.
So they'd be buying a bag of cheeseburgers, regular hamburgers, fries. The worst food in the world. I call it ICU food. You keep eating Mickey D's or Burger King or worse, KFC, Kentucky chicken, worse, Kansas chicken, you are definitely going to the ICU and the ER because you don't have really good food choices.
Right.
Everything's fast food in the hood. Everything. And that's why people end up with so many health issues related because it's all you see is it's really bad for you.
So,
look, I made it.
Right.
I served it. I regret
serving.
Watching people come in there that you knew had health issues. They were too heavy, diabetes, stroke, heart attacks at a very early age. Diabetes, they start chopping your foot off, fingers off. Horrible. And that fast food industrial complex, they don't care as long as you keep just paying for it. And it's outrageous amounts of money that they charge for that. And the food ain't that good, and a lot of times it ain't even warm. I always made sure it was cooked to order, which kept everybody alert. But a lot of times, they pack up the bin. You end up with that Big Mac. It tastes like, what is it, been in the bin for 3 hours? Well, they don't care.
Yeah.
But it's really not good for you.
So how did that lead to the Guardians?
Well, now it's late at night, and everybody's got to go home. And I told them, because I had this idea in Brooklyn, and I would tell people, first in Canarsie, where I came from, so the Supreme Cuisines, and then the brothers in Brownsville. I said, we should be patrolling the trains. You had the LL train, lousy line, Rockaway Parkway, and then you had Rockaway Avenue. You had the 2 train going up to the Bronx. They looked at me like I had all the furniture upstairs and rearranged in the wrong rooms. In Italian, we have words, ubats, tich, crazy. So it wasn't flying in Brooklyn. But by the time I got to the Bronx was burning down. Nobody paid attention to the Bronx. So when I shared my ideas, a lot of the young men and women said, that might work. So I said, guess what? This is your lucky day. Ray Kroc is going to pay for your time on the train with me. We were called the Burger Boys first. Right. Then the Magnificent 13, because it was only 13.
Why, the Burger Boys, because with your coworkers?
Yeah, because we were from Mickey D's.
The Burger Boys. Make room, the Burger Boys is coming through, man.
That's right. And then, that's right at the time, February 8th, 1979, the cult movie classic, The Warriors, comes out by Paramount. So now we're walking up and down the train, red berets, T-shirts. We look like poppin' fresh Pillsbury doughboys and doughgirls. And all the Weisenheimers out there. Oh, Warriors, come out and play. Thinking we were just a gang. Right. So that made it tough because there were gangs out there who thought we were encroaching on their turf. Then by Labor Day, September 4th, 1979, we had about 70 members of the Magnificent 13. Hey, look, you're 13, right? You're now 70 and growing. We were expanding into Brooklyn, which was renamed Crooklyn at the time. And so that's when we changed the name to Guardian Angels, because I was thinking, how are people going to know who we are and what we do? They're thinking we're a gang. No gang would be called Guardian Angels. And the opposite were the Hells Angels. They'd have B-grade movies, Hells Angels on the Dukes. You'd see 3 of them. Basically, they were like the KKK on Harley Davidson. Right. And you get all these black and Hispanic kids, they're on their little bicycles with the banana seat. They have Lee jackets with rockets and patches, and they try to imitate the Hells Angels. And I tell them, they hate blacks and Hispanics. They're 1%ers. What are you talking about? I saw the movie, man. I want to be just like them. I said, man, you have no idea how they hate you. They despise you. But anything in a movie blows up. So they wanted to imitate them. So I said, how do I get them off track of wanting to create sort of a form of Hells Angels in the streets on bicycles? And that's when I created the Guardian Angels. And boy, young men and women started flocking in. Wow. Some for the wrong reasons, because they thought that you could be Bronson in Death Wish, Buford Pusser in Walking Tall. Guy would come into me and sit down. And, I'd interview him the way I would interview employees. He goes, right. Yeah, man, they robbed my mom. They cut her cheek. I want a flamethrower. I want to get in that subway and I want to smoke them up and torch them up. And I'm like, whoa. I said, we don't have any weapons. You get searched before you go out on search? No weapons? I thought you get to go out and kill bad people. I said, not only that, but to qualify, you got to get through the Apache line, which is what gangs had.
What's the Apache line?
Apache line, 6 guys on one side, or gals, 6 on another, and in the middle, at the end, your best martial artist. You got to fight your way through. Now, you're going to take a bunch of blows, because that's the way it is in real life. We had to know if you had the heart to be able to deal with that. Because if this wasn't for you, I didn't want to endanger these young men and women. And by the way, if you're on a patrol of 6 or more, and you punk out, you run, you freeze, and you jeopardize the whole patrol. So it's like your brothers and sisters in solidarity, Right. You go out together. There was no communication. Once you went out on those trains, it's like those old World War II movies, where the British flyers go out to engage the Nazi Luftwaffe over, between Germany and England. Right. And then they count them coming home. And at the end, they say, well, Lloyd didn't make it today. Frankie didn't make it. Let's have a nice drink for them. Right. We didn't know until you reported back to headquarters. And sometimes there were guys battered and bruised because the gangs would team up and gang up on them. And you had to be able to fight your way through the projects, especially. Because when you walked into the projects, it wasn't always friendly. Sometimes you'd be patrolling there, you'd be talking to people, thank you for coming, and then all of a sudden around the corner, 20 guys with bats and sticks, and they cut you off, no way out. Now you gotta fight your way through. And no 911 calls. First off, all the payphones didn't work. People had jimmied them up with sharpened screwdrivers, to take the coins. There were no cell phones back then. You were on your own. And by the way, even if the cops saw us back then because they hated us, they had the wrong idea about it, they just rolled by.
They thought you guys were gangsters.
Right, so very dangerous at that time.
So you're walking around, fighting gangs. The cops don't like you. You're turning away members who want to carry weapons. You guys don't have weapons. What are you guys doing?
Well, the first time when I had that first patrol, I searched everybody. I found every conceivable weapon that you could have had.
I figured you would.
Shivs.
I figured you would.
Homemade shivs.
Did you ever make an exception? Like, okay, all right, you're 5 foot.
No.
Keep the nunchucks. Keep the nunchucks. It's okay.
I could tell if somebody couldn't function without weapons, this was not for them. Because I knew the moment you pull out a weapon, they would know these guys have weapons. They had toolies. They'd shoot you. Right. You see, one thing they knew, the code of the street, the Guardian Angels did not have weapons. We don't have to worry about them pulling out a shiv, pulling out a toolie, pulling out a truncheon or a blackjack. It's like if we're going to attack them, they're going to defend themselves. They're good fighters. Right. But we don't have to worry about weapons. It's almost like it became universal. And we search you before patrol. Everybody gets searched, including me. And after patrol, because maybe along the way, you picked up some crack or drugs, a nickel or dime bag. You couldn't be using drugs. You couldn't be drinking alcohol. Obviously, on your own time, we didn't interfere. But when you're coming to patrol, you have to have control of your mental and physical faculties because people's lives were at stake. It was very dangerous. And we had 6 guys who were killed in the line of duty, 3 dozen seriously injured. That's why I always wear the red beret in their honor.
Can you give me 2 stories? One about a situation where you felt gratified, where you helped someone and it made it all worth it, and a situation where you felt like you wanted to quit.
I'd say probably it was in the Bronx in the beginning. There were older people who would hang out in the lobby of the McDonald's I was managing, and I was wondering why would they be sitting in the lobby, nursing a cold cup of coffee, Back then, you could smoke cigarettes in there. And waiting hours. And then when we would close up, they would all walk together to protect one another. By then, they were living in really dangerous areas of the Bronx, but they wanted a fixed income. Black, white, some Jews, some Gentiles, still living in the South Bronx. And I said to our closing crew, I said, first thing we're going to do, we're going to escort them home. Bars on the windows, locks on the doors. They were afraid to go home at night.
Wow.
They figured the later they went, if they went together, like a tribe, what they might not get preyed upon. Right. But they would hang out for hours. And that's when I began to realize they were frightened. They didn't have family, extended family. They lived on Social Security. Back then, 1 million people left New York City in the 70s. It was that bad, and most of them from the Bronx. They either went over the George Washington Bridge to Rockland or Jersey, or they went up to Westchester. But it was really bad. So that's how we started out. I would say I remember the smiles of the elderly and them crying. And that's when I knew that I had lived up to the way my father, Chester, a merchant seaman for 50 years, and my mother raised me. They said, Curtis, there by the grace of God goes you. Do good things, and good things will happen in return. Don't ask when, why, or how. It's not about money and riches. We're here for a purpose. You have to figure out what is your purpose in life. Right. And it took a while. And then I realized this is where we were needed for the elderly who were being preyed on. These gangbangers, they didn't care. It's not like when they were sane and sober, they would bother the elderly, but at times they'd be drinking and be out of their minds. They'd be attacking the elderly people, laughing like jackals and hyenas. Yeah. And look, I got to tell you, I gave them a few beatdowns for that. I mean, they called us vigilantes at that time, that stuck, the big V. Yeah. But what are you going to do when they're attacking elderly people who can't defend themselves? No cops around. There just weren't enough cops. And these elderly people were crying. They were in a fetal position on the ground. Crazy. You got to pay a price for that. Mm-hmm. Now, everybody survived. I knew exactly how to put, it's called pain compliance. They were going to remember us, kidney punches, like I was explaining before. Right. They didn't feel it right away, but every time they went to the porcelain palace, because whether you're a billionaire or you're poor, you have to relieve yourself multiple times during the day, urinating or defecating. You couldn't do it when your kidneys were bruised. You'd be screaming in pain, and you would remember the boys and girls in the red berets. Now, you'd be cursing us up, but you'd be wondering, wow, they didn't hit me in the face. They didn't cut me. They didn't do any of that. They kept hitting me in my kidneys. I wonder why. And then they figured it out.
So about the other question, Matt, facts about
the other side of it.
Yeah. Was it
the
a time
when you felt like, I don't know if I can keep doing this? Can you give me a story about one of the roughest times being
the roughest time, without question, is I was on the radio at that time, WABC. The acronym stood for Always Broadcasting Curtis. I was in the mornings with my wife at the time, Angels in the Morning, Lisa Evers, now on Channel 5.
Shout out to Lisa.
Soldiers, right?
Shout out to Miss Evers.
And I did a segment called Mob Talk when John Gotti Sr. was on trial for the 4th time. Everybody was terrified. They didn't want to be there. My board operator didn't want to be there. Management didn't want to be there. But the ratings.
What were you saying?
I was telling the real deal about the Gottis and Gambinos that I remember as a young boy on Rockaway and Fulton in East New York, how they would terrorize the neighborhood. They always, the neighborhood is so much better with organized crime. Are you crazy, I would say? They're the ones they're bringing in. They're bringing in heroin. Who do you think they're selling it to? Black people. And then you get black people idolizing, Gottis and Gambinos. They're pushing poison in your veins. Because what do they call you? Moolies, in other words. Don't give it to the moolies, man. They're worthless. Remember, I grew up on the Italian side of my family. I would hear all of this. Right. And then you knew eventually you were going to get blowback. Your own sons and daughters would end up being strung out junkies. Right. Because you would sell to anybody. Right. That's what the Gambinos were doing. There was a certain code. You didn't deal drugs. Carlo Gambino, guy who took over for him, oh, you don't deal drugs, so we whack you. John Gotti Sr. didn't care about anything.
Yeah.
It was all about the money. He'd kill anybody. He was a psychotic killer. And I saw this as a boy growing up amongst them. You know, when you'd walk around the neighborhood in East New York, it was mostly Italian. My kumare set, Sula Mesta, they had a funeral parlor on Liberty Avenue next to the Catholic school. And I'd go into the back of the funeral parlor and my kumare set would say, hey, Curtis, you see, this is what we do. We wash the bodies, we prepare the body for the wake. And then that's the first time I saw a double-decker casket. 2 slots instead of 1 slot. So they have a term, one yam. Fatali fatatu, cheech. You shouldn't say anything, because that's what happened. The mob would whack somebody, they'd put him in the bottom of the casket, and the real person that was there in the wake.
Wow.
So instead of 6 guys carrying the casket, you saw 8 guys because of the extra weight.
Wow.
That's how they would get rid of a member of organized crime.
Right.
And my kumare said, Sulamesh said, one yam, cheat. You didn't see anything.
Yeah.
And okay, kumare said, but I learned
That's
how things were in the neighborhood. And I saw the Gottis, and I saw the Gambinos, and I hated them. And I remember my grandfather, Fidel Bianchino, he was from Bari, Italy. He had cataracts, he had hardening of the arteries, and he was a watchman at night because they were building up these subdivisions in Canarsie. It was all lots. And these Gabons would come at night to steal this stuff, you know, the 2x4s, the wood, the sheetrock, all that. My grandfather would stand there with his cane and say, no, I'm the watchman, you don't. And I remember these Gabons telling me, you better tell your fucking grandfather, we're going to come here and we're going to take what we want. He'd be up all night. And he had his Ukan, that's the dog there. They were afraid of the dog because the dog would do German, he called the dog. The dog would do anything to keep them away. You didn't try to hurt my grandfather. But I saw that. And then one time we went to Avenue L. Avenue L was bad. You had the Lucchese's on one side, the Gambinos on the other side. And they were walking around at the time of the Italian-American Civil Rights League. And you had to put this logo on your window. So my grandfather, I accompanied him there. He was getting his box of the Nobile cigars. He wouldn't smoke the Colombos. Those are the crooked Italian cigars. He only smoked that. We go to Sammy's, who sold them there. He had a luncheonette. So we see these 2 bulls come in, you know, who were there. They were from the Colombo crime family because it was, at that time, it was Joe Colombo who was the head of the Italian-American Civil Rights League, where they said, well, you know, we have to form because they're maligning anybody with a vowel at the end of the name, and they intimidated people.
Right.
So my grandfather is in there, and he's seeing Sammy, and the 2 bulls go up to Sammy and say, you're going to put our logo in your window. He goes, but I'm not Italian. You like your window? Sammy goes, yeah, it's expensive. You want your window broken? No, of course not. You don't put the logo in the window, somebody's going to break this window at night. Again and again and again. So Sammy's looking at me. He was a short Jewish guy from Brownsville because the Jews came to Canarsie from Brownsville. The Italians came from East New York. They wanted to stay in New York City. So my grandfather puts his 2 cents in and he pushes them with his cane. They pushed him down. And he was on his back. And I couldn't help my grandfather. I felt impotent.
How old were you?
At that point, I'm like 10 years old. These are bulls. And they're cursing my grandfather out. You never. I swore that moment I would get these guys until the ends of time. They humiliated my grandfather. He was shaking on the way back. It took him like 2 days to recover from that. He never stepped down to anybody. But Sammy, they made him put that Italian-American Civil Rights logo on it. They intimidated other hardworking Italian people. And then probably what really ended it for me with any of these Gavons that I was growing up with, I was the stickball commissioner for 12 years. That was my game. I would travel the city. I was that good in stickball because there was a lot of money being bet. Black teams didn't mind renting me for the day. You know, they call you up on your home phone.
Right.
Hispanic teams, because I was really good. So when Rudy and Bloomberg were mayor, I was stickball commissioner for 12 years. So I'm playing stickball, and then I'm on 89th and J in Canarsie. And then two guys I'm training in stickball, Joey and Patty Testa. These guys look like runway models. The girls loved them. And the crazy one, Anthony Center. They became the Gemini Lounge Boys. So I'm teaching him stickball. Anthony was always a little titched. I'd have to take the stickball bat out of his hands because he wanted to hit people sometimes. But I'm teaching him the game. That was the game that we played. And then all of a sudden, this guy, Roy DeMeo, is sitting on the stoop. And I can see he's giving them cauliflower ear. He's making love to their ear. They used to hotwire cars, and we go for a joyride. Eldorados, Sevilles, Fleetwoods, cars. And then you park the car on the side. Sometimes you didn't want the car back because you already collected the insurance. That was part of the scam.
Right.
But the 69th precinct would say, we found your car, but, underneath, they put the wires, so, under the dashboard, there's a little bit of damage. So this Roy DeMeo knows that Joey and Patty and Anthony were stealing cars for joyrides. And he's coming up in front of me and he's saying, there's a lot of money in the parts. You see any of these cars at night? You drive them over to Avenue D, 4 beeps of the horn at this address, the gate goes up, you get a lot of money, and man, you're not joyriding anymore. Now you're making money.
Right. Within
months, they got the polyester waffle weave flame retarded shirts on. They got the bell-bottom pants. They got the marshmallow shoes. They got 90,000 gold crucifixes, because that's what Italian supreme cuisines had. Right. And their ucornu, the Italian horn, the red.
Right.
I couldn't identify. And they're doing blow cocaine, which drives you crazy. They're going to discos, clubs. They got the girls. What are you guys doing? So I approached Roy DeMeo, wise guy, right? He had, he was a butcher by trade, and found out later he was butchering up victims at the Gemini Lounge.
Wow.
So I said, these are my friends. What are you doing? You're poisoning. Mind your effing business. Mind my business? You come on my block? This is my block. Where you from? Where'd you go to high school? I always ask people where they went to high school.
You walked in here.
I never finished high school, but I can tell everything about you out of high school. So we're having a conversation. He's a smart guy. He goes, Madison High School. I said, whoa, that's a good school. Why are you coming on this block? Why are you recruiting these young men? You know they're going to go to jail. And now they're doing cocaine, which they'll turn you against your mom and dad. Mind your effing business. They were big in the Gambino Crime Family. They must have killed together Roy DeMeo, Patty, Joey Testa, Anthony Center, at least 85 people. And the way they would do it, they would lure you into the Gemini Lounge. They'd stab you up. They'd bring you upstairs, turn you upside down in the bathroom, bleed you out, chop you up with the butcher tools, put you in plastic bags, and they would drop you right over to Spring Creek, the dump, because it was a big dump along the Bell Parkway. Like this. I knew these guys growing up. Now, Anthony Centaur, he was a bit ubat. Joey and Patty, no. Eventually, Patty gets whacked in his fender bender shop. But to show you how crazy these guys were, at the height of them stealing cars and killing people. So Patty Testa was a master of changing the VIN numbers. Stealing, and then it was like Earl Scheib, get a paint job, bending out the dents. And the Italians all love Cadillacs. They wanted Eldorados, Sevilles, Fleetwoods.
Right.
They'd steal the Cadillac, they'd sell it to you, and it was stolen. You drive it maybe to your home, your business, or your gumad. And just for the fun, they would follow you and steal it again. Bring it back to the chop shop, new paint job, new VIN numbers. Patty was a master at that, just for the fun of it. These were psychotic degenerates. That.
So these are the guys you were talking about on the radio?
Yeah. Joey Testa and Anthony Centaur are now out of prison. They killed between them like 85 guys. Roy DeMeo, they whacked. Patty Testa, they whacked. But I was talking about the big guy, John Gotti Sr., who was on trial for the 4th time. And this time, Sammy the Bull Gravano decided to flip the script and testify against him. And they had Memorex tapes because they would meet in Little Italy right on Mulberry Street, the Ravenite Social Club. And when they had to have a meeting with their guys, they would go upstairs, and there was a widow there who would leave, and they would sit down, and naturally Sammy was the underboss, here's John Gotti Sr. So one time they get on tape, I think this guy, Louis DeBono, big earner for them, coming in from Staten Island. He's late. He's a half hour late. John Gotti Sr. says, Sammy, he shows me no respect. I want you to whack him. He goes, boss, that's our best earner. You know, the BQE, it's always backed up. He'll get here. This is disrespect. Boss, you know how much he kicks up to you and me? Why would we want to whack him? Because of disrespect. When we finish our meeting, you take him for a meal, you drive him away, 2 bullets to the back of the head. Okay, boss? This was all on Memorex tapes.
Wow.
And you say to yourself, what kind of a psychotic killer? If you're in organized crime, remember, people are going out stealing, and then whatever money they make from the stolen product, they kick up to you. This was their best earner. He didn't care. You're late? Remember, there's no cell phones back then. There's nothing. And he did this over and over. And the feds had wired up that apartment like a Christmas tree. Wow. And so in that last trial, everybody heard what had happened. An anonymous jury found him guilty, triple life without parole, sending him to Marion, which is a real bad prison in Illinois. And every day I'd be talking about it, recapping the case like they did the OJ case. Nobody wanted to talk about this. Not Howard Stern, not Don Imus, not any of the talk show hosts, only me. So you wanted to listen every morning. And then he would have his supporters. I would invite them to come on. Lisa looked at me like, this is crazy. And you're going at it with these guys who are basically telling you, you'll be lucky to survive this. I said, make my day, go ahead. Well, what? You think I'm going to shrink from you? You're not a tough guy. Look at your hands. I shook your hands when you came in. The only calluses you got is on your butt. You've never done a hard day's working in. So they were pissed.
Right.
So then I went to 9 Broadcast Plaza with Richard Bay. When that was the superstation. Oh, man, everybody was watching. They were doing a show on Gotti's conviction, and they were sending him away. Remember, they had riots outside. Oh, they were protesting riots. You can't do that. And the audience was filled with all these gavones from Howard Beach. Richard Bay is shaking there. They have me up on the stage, and they have Eppolito and Caracappa, who were the cops who later on were convicted for doing executions for the mob, for gas pipe queso. The guy had just written a book. He has his mother there dressed all in black. She's a widow. So Eppolito goes, you got it all wrong, Curtis. Look, my father was a Gambino. Why don't you come over for some spaghetti and meatballs? And his mother looks at me, yeah, you're a nice Italian boy, right? Spaghetti and meatballs. I looked at her, the Black Widow Spider. I looked at Louis Eppolito, saying, I will never get out of that house. Spaghetti and meatballs. So I took a pass.
Spaghetti and meatballs.
But when I finished the show, because they were defending John Gotti Sr. and the Gambinos, no, you don't understand. We keep crime out of our neighborhood, ma quando mai, we say in Italian. And guys are going like this on the way out. I had the Guardian Angels with me. Man, we were getting into beefs. Richard Bay was saying, they're going to kill you, Curtis. So little did I realize, because it came out, there were 4 trials against John Gotti Jr. 12 years later, he was arrested and charged with the kidnap and attempted murder of Curtis Sliwa. The guy, Michael Iannotti, who also grew up in Canarsie, but much younger, he was their hitman for the Gambino Crime Family. Little Nick Carrazzo and Jojo Carrazzo, who I grew up with. I hated them. They hated me. And so his job was to whack me. Their whole premise was, because little Nick Carrazzo said, it ain't going to be easy whacking Sliwa. He's going to fight. Michael Iannotti said, what do you mean? I shoot him right in the head. No. Don't shoot him in the head. Somehow, some way, this guy always gets out of a tight situation. Shoot him in his lower extremities, bleed him out, then put the last shot in his head. But they knew I took a yellow cab every day to go to WABC.
So how did you find out about this conversation?
How did I find out?
That was the order.
Oh, came out in the trial 12 years later. Now, Lisa was my partner in the morning, Angels in the Morning. There was no internet, so you had to do show prep.
Right.
Lisa wanted to doll herself up in the morning. She goes, I don't feel right unless, I've got the makeup, the hair. I said, Lisa, it's radio. She goes, well, you go ahead. You love to read the papers. You do what's called show prep. Remember, there was no internet back then. Everything was hard copy. You got the Daily News, the New York Post, the New York Times, and Newsday. And then you had to put the show together. So she would come later. So that morning, they had already been scoping me down, John Gotti Jr. and his crew. They were already eyeballing me. They knew what I was doing. And I'm in my red beret, my red sateen jacket.
This is 92, right?
Right, come out the same time, June 19th, 1992. Wow. They had tried to pick me up 9 different times because they knew I would hail a cab. On the 9th occasion, just like they were ready to pack it up for the day, who jumps in the back of that yellow cab? Curtis Sliwa. And to get the yellow cab, an Irish cab driver left the keys in the cab outside of a XXX rated theater near LaGuardia. It was prearranged. They took the cab to the Jamaica Salvage Yard, which was beyond the right field wall of Shea Stadium back then. Carmine Agnello, the son-in-law, had the biggest chop shop in North America. They sawed off the handles inside because little Nick Carrazzo tells Michael Leonardi, this guy's going to try to bolt out of that cab. I know this guy. What are you talking about? Shoot him in the head. Would you stop talking about shooting him in the head? When you shoot him, he's going to fight. He's going to try to get out of that cab. So they sawed the handles off and put him back on with crazy glue. So they got the perfect plan. It's a rolling coffin.
Wow.
So on the 9th day, at the end of the day, you have Michael Leonardi, who's under the dashboard in front. He's covered by a sheet. Hotter than hell because you got the Joey D'Angelo, the driver, who had been the protege for Sammy the Bull. He had to prove his loyalty to the Gambinos. He was from Bay Ridge. And he's driving the cab, and Leonardi is underneath, and he's saying, man, open up the freaking window. I'm dying here. Thank God they did. They opened up the window before I jumped in. So I jump in the back. I got the New York Post, the Daily News, 24-hour newsstand. I'm reading sports because that sports is pleasurable. Current events makes you nauseous. It's like, oh, God, it gives you a migraine headache. Right. So I got it spread out. I'm reading. I say, Mac, Madison Square Garden. No problem, Curtis. I said, wow, I hit the lottery. Because back then, your typical cab driver is probably tending goats outside of Amman, Jordan a week before. Didn't know how to drive a cab. Didn't understand English. You basically had a guide down. So I'm figuring, wow, I hit the lottery.
Right.
A guy who speaks English, understands where we go, and he had the Irish walking cap on, and knew who I was. And I'm reading the sports, and he's driving. It's like driving Miss Daisy. We're going along. And instead of going left as we go up Avenue A, on about 13th Street, you're supposed to make your left. He goes right. I said, where you going, Mac? Don't you know your way to Madison Square Garden? I wasn't responding. Now he puts the pedal to the metal. And back then, man, this is before Rudy. There are potholes everywhere. It's like Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, hydraulics, man. We're flying down the street. We're hitting and you hear the transmission grinding.
Right.
And I'm like, man, is this a nightmare? And then Leonardi comes up from the dashboard. He's got a mask on. He's got the Irish walking cap, and
He comes up from the dashboard.
He's underneath the dashboard in the front.
He was hiding in the front of the car.
Covered by a sheet.
That's why he said it was too hot. He had to roll down the windows and stuff.
And remember, there was no panel at that time. A lot of the cabs, you saw the driver. Mm-hmm. He's got a 38 Special aimed at my 3-piece set, and that is not a knife, a spoon, and a fork. I'm like, this gotta be a dream. I'm gonna wake up any second right in a sweat. This can't be real.
Does he say anything?
No.
No, he just pops up.
One thing I know, when they got a gun to you, listen. Don't open your mouth. And right away, he said, take this, you son of a bitch. Bam! Except he shot in my head and missed me. The bullet went right through the back. Now, not because I did a Bruce Lee move. Wah, wah,
He just missed.
He missed. And then he started doing what he was supposed to do, air rape me. I mean, he shot me all over the place. So I dived to the left, and I'm gonna open up the handle, and I'm gonna dive into moving traffic. I'm gonna take my risk. So I pull the handle, and guess what? The handle comes off the door. And now the guy shoots me right through the legs. I'm bleeding out. When you've been shot, and these are hollow point bullets, I had no idea at the time, but they're shredding you inside. Yeah. So if you don't die, man, you're gonna be impaired. And you can barely breathe, and you're like in a fetal position. I can barely breathe. And I realized, oh my God, I feel a strong gust of wind. It's from the window that he opened up in the front. I said, I got one shot before I bleed out. I gotta dive back on the chair because I'm hiding behind the seat of the driver. And he's trying to put the last shot and do the headshot. And so I jump back on the seat and I jump right through over his shoulder, and I'm stuck halfway out the cab. So I'm almost touching the ground. You can feel the pebbles up. I can see the tires there, and he's holding me by the belt. He's trying to pull me back in like a seesaw, and I'm desperately trying to hit the ground. And then I feel the barrel of the gun. He pops the last shot in my back and pushes me out. And they're like speeding down Avenue B towards the Williamsburg Bridge. I could barely see them. And right there on 6th and B was where the Hells Angels kid mill was, across from St. Bridget's. So there's a guy on a payphone, a Hells Angel, and he hears this pop, 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 pop. Ah! You know, they're screaming and yelling.
Right.
And he sees me jumping out, and I'm on the ground. And so he looks at me, he runs inside. All the Hells Angels come out and surround me. They knew me because they were on 3rd Street in the area. They didn't like me. But they turned me over and I'm bleeding out. And they said, man, Curtis, don't die on us here. Then they think a yellow cab is coming back. And they said, cab. And all these tough guys go running back into the bar. There's a cab coming right towards me. I'm lifting my head. I'm bleeding out. I'm in such pain. And it's this guy in another yellow cab, and he's got the CB radio. He stops. He almost hits me. I don't know. He's talking Farsi, Urdu, something, you know, Pakistani, whatever. And then the meat wagon shows up. Then the police show up, and they weren't my friends at the time. So they're already saying, wow, they got me in this body bag, and they're pumping air in it to suppress the bleeding because I'm bleeding out. And then they throw me on a gurney, and you could hear my blood sloshing up and down. And the cops, you know, they're saying, I guess he ain't Superman. Wow. That I remember.
Wow.
So they throw me in the meat wagon. We must have hit every pothole on the way back. We go into Bellevue. That's where they have their special team in case a cop gets shot. Lucky for me, Dr. Pachter and his crew. And I remember them putting the scalpel in me and cutting me open as they were putting, you know, the anesthesia on me. And that's it. I wake up 2 days later, touch and go. I wake up in the ICU with a sheet on me, tubes in every orifice of my body to get rid of the toxins or you're dead. And I wake up in a stupor and I look over and I see my nemesis, Ed Koch, the former mayor. I thought I died and went straight to hell. And he's smiling at me. Then I look over here, and it's Cardinal O'Connor. If you're Catholic, they used to call extremunction vests, death right vestments. He would give me the last prayers if I was going, gone.
Right.
And then in the middle was Lisa. She had a smile. It was a long recovery. 6 months later, the head of detectives for the NYPD announced, after a thorough investigation, the allegations of Mr. Sliwa that this was members of the Gambino Crime Family. There was no organized crime involvement. We're closing the case. And I was devastated because I knew who it was. I knew who it was. And it lingered for 12 years. And then people were saying, they would call me up at night. I was on the radio. I was doing overnight radio. Well, it's a pretty good trick. You were driving the cab, you shot yourself, and you dived out of the cab. I said, 5 times with hollow point bullets? You think I was driving the cab and shot myself? How did the cab end up being, you know, abandoned by the Williamsburg Bridge? You know, people just playing with me.
That's crazy.
You think they paid the police?
The 9th precinct there was corrupt at that time. But to be honest, there just weren't enough police back then. So they picked the right time, the right place, and they almost killed me. 12 years later, I get a call the FBI lets me know, and they hated me, the FBI, that they were arresting John Gotti Jr., Michael Leonardi, and D'Angelo for the kidnap and attempted murder of me. Multiple charges. Boom, 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 boom. I find out from the U.S. Attorney's Office that a snitch had told them years before what had happened, but they didn't want to give up the guy who was inside the Gambino crime family because they said, F. Sliwa, he's got a big mouth. You know, he probably deserved what he got for the way he was talking about the mob. They just didn't like me.
Right.
If they had arrested them then on this informant who was in the Gambino crime family, he would have had to testify, so he would have given up, his hidden identity, so to speak. But this was a big case. Gotti Jr. would have went to jail forever for the conspiracy, the RICO conspiracy to have me whacked on the orders of his father. So we finally go to trial, and Jeffrey Lichtman, very good attorney, but mean. Opening remarks to the jury. You will see Curtis Sliwa, he's going to testify in this case. My client, oh yeah, he was the underboss of the Gambino crime family. We're not going to argue that. His father made him the underboss. The father obeyed his son, John Gotti Sr. But Curtis Sliwa was not dead. And the window of opportunity to arrest my client and charge him with kidnapping and attempted murder disappears because Curtis is alive and well. They had 5 years to get him.
So it was
and the
outside
door
the
closed.
statute of limitation.
Statute of limitation. 4 trials we went through. Wow. The first trial, the jury came back 11-1 to convict. You get a chance to talk to the jurors afterwards if they want to talk to you. And the media, they want to talk to me. So they said, well, you can talk to the jurors. So I say, well, who is the holdout? Woman named Mabel, African-American from the Bronx. I go in and I sit with her. I said, Mabel, can you tell me why you voted not to convict John Gotti Jr.? She goes, oh, Curtis, I love you. I didn't live far from you there. You were living on University Avenue and West Fordham. I lived in Kingsbridge. I loved what you and your guys and gals did. I said, well, why didn't you vote in the affirmative? I don't trust anything the government says. They do a voir dire to try to get jurors. They went to many jurors. Did you ever listen to Curtis on the radio? I remember I was on radio now 35 years, so the people had to be excluded. You know anything about this guy? Most people did. Took them forever to get a jury. But they never determined, they never asked the question, do you trust the federal government? She would have answered, no, I don't trust the federal government.
Wow.
So she was the holdout. Then they had a second jury, 8-4 to convict. Then a third jury, 6-6. Then they went a fourth trial. Gotti Jr. escaped on technicalities. Michael Leonardi got 20 years for shooting me multiple times. Judge Shira Shinlin put him away. And D'Angelo had testified. He became a cooperating witness. So his story of what happened in that cab matched my story. But John Gotti Jr. now lives in Oyster Bay, Long Island, and pleads poverty. He has all these properties that his father had stolen from other people and collects the rent. Mm-hmm. And that's how he lives.
Wow.
So every time I hear the name John Gotti Jr., I said, man, you should have been doing triple life without parole. Wow. Because I got messed up physically from that.
How did you react to it? Was there tension between you and Lisa? How did the Angels feel about it? Did they want to go out and get street justice? What was going on?
No, it was Gotti, organized crime, and the Gambinos. At that time, remember, they were the biggest of the big. I had guardian angels resigning, not because they wanted to, but their moms and dads said, you don't want to be anywhere near Curtis. They're going to finish the job. When he gets out of hospital, they will finish the job because this guy doesn't stop. I kept talking even when I was in the hospital.
Even when you was in the hospital.
Oh,
what were you saying?
I tell him who did it. Right. The cops are corrupt, the 9th precinct. I didn't know the specifics of who did it, but I said, it's the Gottis and Gambinos. How do you know? I grew up with these guys. This is their methods of operation. I said, come on.
Did it make you paranoid?
No, I was never paranoid. I never had armed security. Never, even afterwards when I recovered. I have armed security now.
Yes.
after the billionaires bribed me with $10 million to drop out of the mayoral race, and I said no.
So you was more afraid of the billionaires than you were the Gambinos?
Well, it wasn't the billionaires who sent somebody to whack me and threaten my wife. It's people who are emotionally disturbed, who are getting into this frenzy of hysteria. And then threatening my wife first, who never hurt anybody. She rescues animals. This is her whole life.
Right.
They threaten her, they threaten me, and now you see, I have armed former NYPD police officers. I would not expect take the NYPD intel. Are you kidding? I would say to Zoran Mandami, everything you're discussing in that SUV, Eric Adams is listening to. Are you kidding? These are his boys, handpicked. I'm street smart. No. You think those cops are not going to be reporting every conversation that I have in that SUV? Whether it's personal or professional? That's why they're there. That's why they're part of that intel.
So you brought up the 10 million. You see Eric Adams drop out. Do you think that he took some money?
Man, remember Bob Barker? The
Price is right.
He waited till the price was right. I think, based on people offering me money, he probably got double that and more. And he waited. Remember, he waited. And he kept saying, well, I might drop out any moment. It's like, man, I said, boy, this guy is like Monty Hall, let's make a deal. He wasn't happy with door number 1, door number 2, and then finally he picked door number 3. And then he was one and done. Wow. This guy was so corrupt. I'm telling you, when Eric Adams dies, and he has his way, because he's going to die from greed, they're going to have to find a Black & Decker power drill to drill him into the ground in a cemetery. You won't even be able to close the casket. My God, the corruption. Phil Banks, unindicted co-conspirator, he makes deputy mayor of public safety. Timothy Pearson, who was in charge of contracts, he went to the academy with him, lifelong friend in the police department. And he says at the end, where are my crumbs? Which is like Joe Picoco for Andrew Cuomo. That was his leg breaker, his wartime consigliere who said, hey, where's the ziti? A box of ziti was $1,000. 25 boxes, $25,000. It's all corrupt. Politics is the dirtiest business there is.
So how will you reform it?
This is the business that we have chosen. So I got to be like the tidy bowl man. I got to give politics a colonic.
How are you going to do that if
you
don't trust law enforcement?
Well,
and you don't
not
trust
all law enforcement.
Other politicians.
Right.
Trump isn't necessarily standing with you. How are you going to do it?
Well, because if they can't buy you, they can't trade you, you're not for sale, you're not for lease. First thing I do, I get elected mayor, big sign on City Hall. City Hall not for sale. Lobbyists, stay the hell out of here. I will kick your ass out of here because they come in offering bags of money. And there are a lot of good men and women who become officials. They get elected with the best of intention.
Yeah.
But then their colleagues say, yeah, but you're going to have to face re-election. And they may challenge you in a primary. And you're going to need the lobbyist money. Because once you have a war chest of money, nobody's going to challenge you. So you sell out your principles. Not all of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Because I remember them when they were first coming up and they were exuberant. They really wanted to help the people. They were selfless servants. And then they became self-serving servants. Look how many men and women in Congress and the Senate, Democrats and Republicans, they go in there, they don't have 2 nickels to rub together. By the time they're either out or they retire, they're millionaires like Nancy Pelosi and some Republicans because they benefit from insider trading information. It's all about putting your beak in the trough. But if you set the example at the top, then you can enforce it. And I would have a Department of Investigation. I don't pick the commissioner. Why would you let the mayor pick the commissioner of the person who's supposed to investigate government for corruption? If there's somebody who contributed to me or my friend, you think they're going to investigate me?
Exactly.
They have to be independent and autonomous because, hey, what makes you think that you can trust Curtis Sliwa every day, every week, every month? Might I succumb? Might I get weak? Might I start lying to cover up for things that maybe some of my staff members are doing that are friends of mine? I don't want to see them jammed up. That's why you need a Department of Investigation, independent, autonomous, that has freedom to investigate everything, including your belly button length. And watch. People won't be putting their beak in the trough and picking your pockets. Because right now we have a city, especially under Eric Adams, hopelessly corrupt. He should have been in jail with Gold Bar Bobby Menendez. Now, I don't know who would have been the Maytag, but he should have been.
Come on.
Oh, yeah, and George Santos.
Come on.
Oh, George Santos, too. Now, we know he would have been the Maytag. There's no doubt about that. I mean, all three of these guys are crooks.
Right.
Why did they get sprung? And then if you do a $5 stick-up in an ATM machine, they jam you up, you're doing 5 years. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't do time for that. But these guys are stealing millions. And then it's just like organized crime. You don't think all these guys who were indicted weren't kicking up to Adams? Weren't kicking up to Bobby Menendez? Now, George Santos, that's a different story. Yeah. He was basically corrupt from the tip of his nose to the tip of his toes. But you got to set an example. When these guys steal from us, the taxpayers, and then they get turned loose into the streets, other politicians figure like, hey, I got it too. No, you got to be harder on your leaders than the people in the streets because you got to set the example. Now, you see, you ain't going to hear that from any other politicians. They protect their own tribe. Republicans protect Republicans. Democrats protect Democrats. I know. No. You're corrupt. You're going to jail. We're going to jack you up and we're going to put you on a pedestal, and through transparency, you're going to see how corrupt he or she is and how they took care of all their homeboys, homegirls, sycophants, toadies, lackeys at taxpayers' expense. That's why people are not voting. They think all politicians are crooks. People come up to me. We love you, Curtis, but you're a politician now. Well, what does that mean? Well, you kiss babies and shake hands, right? Of course.
Yeah, they don't know if they can trust you.
They think I'm crooked. A preponderance of them who always loved me. Well, you're a politician now. You're just like all of them. I said, you really think all politicians are crooks? Yes. I said, I know a lot of politicians. The mother of my 2 youngest sons, Melinda Katz, is the Queens District Attorney, Democrat. I said, look, I was with her for 13 years. I met all kinds of officials, mostly Democrat, because it's a Democrat city. Not all of them are corrupt, but a lot of them are. But see, right away you think because now I'm running for office, I'm corrupt. Of course, you're all corrupt. That's the biggest thing we have to overcome, because that leads to all this apathy and indifference. And then the elected officials can get over on everybody because you leave them alone. Nobody shines the light on them. Everybody assumes, well, that's the way it is. No, it doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't have to be that way.
So why you think that so many people from the Republican side is now going to Cuomo?
Because they're like Rodney Dangerfield, the comedian, remember?
Yeah.
No respect. They have no self-respect. They don't think they can win elections. I'm like Braveheart. Remember Braveheart in that famous scene? The Scotsmen are here and the Brits are there, and we can't fight. And then he riles them up, and then he goes on to victory.
Right.
But then they catch him in the end, and they put him on a gurney. Remember that last scene?
Yeah,
and
castrate him.
And the executioner says, you must bow to the King of England or I will have to impale you. Braveheart, Mel Gibson said, do your job. And they impaled him. They gutted him out. So right now, everybody says, oh, you got to drop out for Cuomo. I said, no, I'm like Braveheart. If you had an executioner over me with the impaling device, I would say, I will never, ever stand next to a man who killed 15,000 elderly people because of his executive order during the lockdown and pandemic and led to this crime crisis we have. So executioner, do your job, because me and Cuomo, we're like 2 scorpions in a brandy glass. And different, I trust people. I don't trust politicians, billionaires, influencers, insiders. What's wrong with letting people vote? Isn't this a novel idea? One person, one vote.
Right.
How many years did black people have to struggle for the right to vote? Women for the right to vote. Was it ever taught to you in a history class or civics? Well, but there's also billionaires, influencers, and inside. No. Why are you afraid of the people? If the people elect Zohan Mandami, I got to live with it. But I ain't running to Florida like Andy Cuomo and all these billionaires. Fear, fright, hysteria.
Right.
I stay. I fight for what I know is right. I'll be the mayor in exile. I'll be Zorhan and the socialist worst nightmare because I'm an organizer. I'm a community organizer. Barack Obama was a great community organizer. He did so on the south side of Chicago. I never met him personally, but, with the Guardian Angels there, they told me, boy, this guy is good. I've organized all over the world. I know how to organize people. And I will organize people who feel they're getting screwed over by the socialists to fight back. Not physically, but to organize. That's how you fight back. And I think Zoran and his supporters know that if they happen to win, I ain't going nowhere. And boy, they're going to regret the fact that they will do things and they'll know right away, like a jack in the box, they're going to have to deal with Curtis Sliwa all the time. Because I will call them out. Socialism, I'm not afraid of socialists. We've had socialists in New York City before. Jews are very upset, and I get it, anti-Semitism. But I always tell them, look, I've been to Israel 3 times. I went to the home of the first leader in Israel, Ben Gurion. Very humble, right near the Negev Desert, where they have 80 nuclear weapons. They call it a chocolate factory, but they had to do that to survive.
Yeah, right.
Ben Gurion was a socialist. Most of the initial leaders in Israel were socialists. Rabin, who got executed, a socialist. You don't fear socialism. You battle them in debate. You try to convince people capitalism is better than socialism. But this unbelievable fear. Look, I've been in street situations, guns to my right, guns to my left. If I blink, if I showed any fear, it's over. You're dead.
Right.
They have to feel like, wow, this guy got a set on him. He's going to fight. Right. And that's what I tell the Republicans. You're ready to fold like a cheap camera. You have no self-respect. You're like Rodney Dangerfield. No self-respect. You're the Republicans. I can go into neighborhoods where the only Republican they've ever seen is Abraham Lincoln on a $5 bill and get respect. Other Republicans can't do that. They're afraid. I said, what are you afraid for? If you walk up to people and you say it's a 2-party system, this is what the Democrats have told you. Are you better off? Come on, let's be real. Right. Listen to what the Republicans have to offer you, and then you make a decision. If you want to stay Democrats, that's fine. But when you have a 1-party system, you get screwed. Yeah. They got black people in their back pocket. Because so many African Americans, I only vote Democrat. Why wouldn't you even sample what the Republicans are offering? Maybe it ain't your cup of tea. But to stay...
I'm not sure black people know what direction to go in nowadays.
Well, because Republicans have done a very poor job doing outreach. When I walk into a neighborhood where they've never seen Republicans, they don't say, that's the Republican. They say, that's Curtis. That's the Guardian Angel guy. It's like we opened up a GOP headquarters on Osborne and Hegeman in Brownsville. There's never been Republican headquarters in Brownsville. Nobody ever came up and desecrated the headquarters, busted windows. You got to get out of here. Why? Because I grew up there. Everybody knew me there. They knew the Guardian Angels. And they said, it's kind of nice having a second choice. It's like when you go to the supermarket, you want to buy ketchup, you got like 12 brands. You want to buy mustard, you got 12 brands. Right. Why in politics would you settle on just one brand? When they know they got you in their back pocket, they can promise you anything. But if they think that all of a sudden you're sampling both sides, then all of a sudden they got to prove to you that they're going to help you. But if they know there's a 1-party town, they can tell you anything in Buffalo.
You just keep it moving.
And that's what they've been doing. I mean, everybody has a right to live the American dream. Everybody. Mm-hmm. And political parties sometimes make it very difficult to live the American dream. I respect everybody. You're locked up, I respect you. You're shooting up, I respect you. You're homeless, you're emotionally disturbed, I respect you. Because there, by the grace of God, goes me. It's the way I was trained. I happen to be a Republican. But as you can see, there are a lot of Republicans who don't like me. And they make that very well known. And I say, okay, go in peace. But there are a lot of other people, independents, 2.5 times more independents now than Republicans. There are moderate Democrats who like me. And there are animal lovers. We have the first ever independent line, protect animals, no kill shelters, animal abusers go to jail. A lot of women like that. They're like one-issue voters. So look, you don't have to like me. I believe in free speech. The answer to hate speech is more free speech, not less free speech. See, we're in a country where if somebody is accused of engaging in hate speech, we want to shut everybody down. No. Debate, more free speech. I'm not afraid to argue my positions. That is the antidote to hate speech, more free speech. That's what America is about.
Right.
You travel the rest of the world, very few countries. You go to England. When I first went to England, organized the Guardian Angels, you know what they told me on the BBC 1, 2, 3, and 4? They have 4 networks. You cannot disparage the royal family. Why? You can go to jail. You see what we talk about our presidents? Trump, Biden.
Yeah, you can't do it.
But no,
Not over there.
that's the way it should be. We should have freedom of speech. Men died in battle to preserve that. Right. Men died in battle so we could vote. I was trained in public school that way as a youngster. Oh, you got to vote.
But you don't think it's dangerous to a certain extent, the propaganda, the stories, especially in politics. So many times we see politicians say the nastiest things about each other.
Yep.
And then, you look to the left for a second and you look back and they're shaking hands.
Well,
they're doing business.
This is the best one. This is the all-time best one.
Right.
It's the morning of the Indiana Republican primary 2016. It's neck and neck, Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. Vice President Pence was governor of Indiana at that time. He was campaigning with Ted Cruz. Bobby Knight, the anger management coach of Indiana with the red sweater, was campaigning with Trump. He's just like Trump. That morning, Trump gets on radio stations all across America. Did you see Ted Cruz's father helped Lee Harvey Oswald assassinate JFK? Look, I read it in the National Enquirer. I don't know if it's true or not. He kept repeating it on Fox and Friends and other shows. Years later, you say that about my father, that he helped assassinate JFK, which was not true. I'll never talk to you the rest of my life. These politicians, they have no soul.
This seemed to be a democratic thing, though.
It's like battle rap. Yeah. You watch battle rap?
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about your mother, your family, your older, and then I'm going to shake your hand after the battle.
I mean,
but imagine your father aided and abetted Lee Harvey Oswald. There was no evidence to that.
Right.
But Trump threw it out there like red meat. And he went on to win that Indiana primary and won the Republican nomination and eventually beat Hillary Rodham Clinton, who couldn't believe it. She was in a fetal position for a month at Jacob Javits Convention Center. She thought she was going to have a victory gala. She still can't. And that night when Trump was told, you're the president, he was the most surprised guy in the world. It wasn't that confident Trump. He was like stunned.
Like, what?
I won?
I did?
That's funny you said that, Mav, because Eric Adams, a few weeks ago, said that Cuomo is a snake and a liar, in which I believed.
Hell yeah.
I believe the next thing you see, I support him.
I saw your post on that.
Follow the money.
Follow the money.
Politics always follow the money. The backstabbers typically do that because somebody has bought them out. And they've convinced them to flip the script. It's always about the money. Always about the money.
Do you receive checks from DC Comics?
Did I what?
Do you receive checks from DC Comics?
No, I really wasn't a comic book kid.
Yo, have you ever seen The Dark Knight Returns?
Oh. Yeah,
Bro, like, they made Bruce Wayne look just like you.
They stole this.
Yo, make sure you put the picture up. Bruce Wayne look just, and the fact that he's a vigilante.
Yep.
And you
they actually had Guardian Angel types in that movie. That was the dark Batman movie.
Right.
You're absolutely right.
Right.
I was never a fan of comic book heroes, to be honest. I knew of them. You know, you watch on TV, I think it was Steve Reeves was Superman, you know.
Right.
He ended up killing himself.
Yeah.
That was the black and white version, you know, when we would see it after school.
Right.
Superman, you know. It was great. But I never really was a comic book kid. I don't know. Other kids, they couldn't wait for the new edition to come out. They'd run to the candy store. It was like a nickel back then. I was never really into Batman, Robin. By the way, whatever happened to Robin?
He grew up. He He grew up.
I truly thought that was an odd combination. A grown man with an underage boy.
He was the distraction. The
Wait a
criminals would
second.
be like, what the hell? Oh!
Was there a little pedophilia there? But what the hell?
What the hell was that?
Whatever happened to Robin? Robin just disappeared.
That's crazy.
Give you an example. In the Catholic faith, there was limbo. Limbo was for babies who weren't baptized. If they died before baptism, they went to limbo.
Right.
And you read that in your Baltimore Catechism. Then all of a sudden, they eliminated limbo. So I say to the nun, whatever happened to limbo? It's none of your business. What do you mean? There's no more limbo. They now go to heaven. What happened to limbo? You asked too many questions. Bam! And then my head spun around like Linda Blair in The Exorcist. Because I always question authority. I never accept what I'm told, especially when it doesn't make sense.
Right.
You trained me as a young boy in Catholic grammar school to believe that unbaptized babies go to a place called limbo. And then all of a sudden,
limbo's gone.
gone.
Yeah, they just took it out.
Don't
Removed.
ask questions.
It's a parking
gone.
lot now.
Papal doctrine. Remember, we have a belief in the Roman Catholic faith that the Pope is infallible. There's no man or woman who's infallible.
Right.
So that's why they call me a lapsed Catholic. They call me an AMP Catholic. Ashes on Wednesday, palms on Sunday, and then you don't see me for a month of Sundays. As my father said, the Pope puts his pants on one leg at a time. There's no infallibility. Let me tell you about popes. And then he would tell me the history of popes, and I would say, oh, God, I never knew that.
Wow. How much did you love your grandfather?
Oh, my grandfather, Fidel Bianchino, on the Italian side, he was here in New York. My grandfather on the Polish side, Anton, was in Chicago. I love both of them because they were masters of telling you history through the spoken word. My grandfather on the Italian side, Bades, could not read or write. But boy, could he tell stories that educated me. He had a pick and a shovel when he came over here. He helped dig the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. Back then, the Southern Italians were like the Mexicans now. They did all the hard work. So he'd have to walk miles. He had 13 kids. The last drop was my mother, Francesca. She was the only one who was born here. The rest were born in Bari, Italy. So he had to shape up. There was no social service. There was no welfare. He'd shape up with the pick and the shovel. At that time, the foremen, they were Irish. So at the end of the day, they would say, hey, Wops, day goes guineas, no work today, come back tomorrow. And he would say, Wanyan, I wanted to kill this guy. But I had to bite my tongue. I had 13 children to feed, a bowl of pasta vazzola, and a stale piece of Italian bread. That's what they survived on. Wow. In the Depression. And he would show up the next day and hope he got picked. You know how many men were killed building the tunnels that we drive through and we don't even think, are there any monuments to them? And they were all different ethnic groups. They were black, they were Irish, they were German, they were Italian. You know how many people died building the Brooklyn Bridge? Wow. Do they have a monument to them? It's almost like they didn't.
Would you make one?
Yeah.
You're damn right I will. Merchant seamen, per capita, per person, they lost more men in World War II because you went out 40 ships at a time, and the Nazi subs were right off the coast of the United States and would shoot them down, and you couldn't stop. You would see your friends. They would drown. They would perish. They have a little monument right near the battery. It's a man pulling up a seaman who obviously was in distress.
Right.
You can't even see that if you didn't know where it was. I believe in more statues. Honor more men and women. Some people, they are upset at certain statues. I say, look, if your answer is you don't like Christopher Columbus, you get to pull your own statue up if the community wants it, because the pigeons need somebody to rest on. And that's why they rest on those statues. People get all bent out of shape by the statue. No, you're not happy. Put up your own statues as long as the community is in agreement. Because that's how you learn a lot of times. You'll say to your mom and dad, who is that? Who is that? And then if they know, they'll tell you. There's a place, Zion Square, in the heart of Brownsville, where Pitkin meets East New York near the old Loews Theater. It's desecrated. There are hollowed out blunts, there are Colt 45 bottles everywhere. These were all Jews at the time who died. It was a Jewish neighborhood, Brownsville. All the Jews who died in World War I, World War II. Nobody cleans it up. The kids at the local school, it's never explained to them what Zion Park is. What are all those names inscribed? We don't do that. When I went to public school, we'd have assembly on Fridays. Remember, you had the clip-on ties, you had the white shirts, the slacks. And they would bring in the American Legion and their auxiliaries, the women, and they would tell you stories, veterans of foreign war, Jewish war veterans, all different veterans. And they would tell you, I sat in that chair in 4th grade. And you were like, wow, unbelievable. And a lot of them would tell you, no, war is hell. Let me tell you, I have not recovered from what I did in World War II. Who knew at that time post-traumatic shock syndrome? But you could see, it was half a man, but they would tell you, war is the worst possible thing you could ever be engaged in. We got to talk to veterans. They don't do that anymore. I remember, he was a great coach. He was a great principal, Frank Mickens at Boys High School.
That's a fact, RP Frank Mickens.
I had a big argument with him because on career day in the gym, everybody comes in and offers the children, young adults, an opportunity. He wouldn't let the military services in. He wouldn't let them wear their uniforms. I said, Frank, I remember in my school, Brooklyn Prep, they had a scrimmage between Boys High Kangaroos. They had Mel Davis at the time. Kenny Charles was our hero, Brooklyn Prep. I watched. He was a great coach, great principal, disciplinary, always wore that bow tie. I said, Frank, I wear the beret and the T-shirt. If I came in on career day, we don't pay you, but if I was recruiting for the Guardian Angels, nope, you can't wear a uniform.
What was his reasoning?
I don't know. And I never felt, I respected the guy. He ran a really good school. A lot of hard rocks in that school, but he educated a lot of young men with respect and young ladies with respect. But that was that 1 weak spot. And I said, you know how many men and women went on to a military career who could escape the hood, who got to see the world, learn skills, ROTC, went to college? Frank, why wouldn't you want them to have that opportunity? Can't come into my gym with a uniform on. I don't know what it was. But shows you we all have these blind spots. It doesn't take away from you as a human being, but you always try to discuss, have dialogue. Don't vilify somebody.
Okay.
Discuss your differences.
So I heard that you oppose closing Rikers Island.
Yes.
Why?
Because I've been locked up on Rikers Island. The first 13 years, they stuck me in the dormitory when they lost my paperwork. 40 guys in a dormitory. They usually had an African-American woman. All she had was a body alarm, correctional officer. Most correctional officers now are women of color. They get sexually harassed, sexually assaulted. The gangs, then they don't even have the big solitary confinement now. You get a timeout like I used to give my sons. 4 hours in the corner, and then they put you back in the general population with these CEOs.
Right.
You got 10 buildings. 7 of them are used. 3 of them are empty. You've got some men, some women who are mentally ill. They need treatment. You can rehab some of that empty space. The worst problem is ventilation. That's always been the worst problem in Rikers Island. But the way it is now, the gangs rule Rikers Island.
Right.
Every tier. And they mix the same gang members together. Are you out of your mind? So they put Trinitarios with Trinitarios, MS-13, Bloods with Bloods, Crips with Crips. They don't mix them up. And the correctional officers, they all work 12 hours. It's like a 911 call.
Yeah.
And they're lucky that they can control Rikers Island. So now they created these community jails for them. First, it was going to cost $8 billion, $2 billion a community jail. Now it's up to $16 billion. It'll soon be $32 billion. This always happens when the city or state gets involved in a building project. What I would do is turn that into affordable housing, because some of them are already being constructed, fix up Rikers Island, and create a space where the inmates are safe, the COs are safe, everybody who works there is safe. Bernie Kerik, I was there when Bernie Kerik was the correctional commissioner for Rudy Giuliani. He grew up in the projects of Patterson, used to get along great with blacks and Hispanics. He ran the jail system in Passaic before he got on board with Rudy.
Right.
Man, you were safe walking the hallways. I lectured at Rikers Island. I taught in the high school. I did radio programs from Rikers Island. And let me tell you something. I went back to the kitchen in the morning for the breakfast that I used to have, in which the pancakes I had. Could I have a second order of pancakes? Absolutely.
Right.
Best pancakes I ever had, Biscuit. Huge boxes of it. And it's the inmates who are there, culinary, learning different skills that they'll use once they're released. Most of the men and women there because they can't make bail. But I also know some of the families could give the bail money out, but they don't want them coming back home. Every case is a different case. You got to look at them individually and autonomously. The feds now are running Rikers Island. It's in receivership because Eric Adams did such a poor job. But the feds have done a lousy job. If you go to the federal lockup in Sunset Park, that prison's a mess also. So it needs to be completely reformed. Once you've been locked up there or you've been there, you know what to do. Do you think in your wildest dreams that Zoran Mandami knows anything about Rikers Island? Do you think Andrew Cuomo knows anything about Rikers Island? Other than 10 years ago, he was saying, close it, close it. Now he said, well, I don't want to close it. They don't know. Where are you going to put these men and women in the interim? And then you got the juvie jails, the one in Brownsville, the one in the South Bronx. Ooh.
Okay.
They are really out of control.
Yeah, definitely.
So you got to understand, if you got to talk to people who are in corrections. You got to talk to the inmates. A lot of inmates, once they're in there, man, they catch beatdowns. They got to give up their commissary, their phone privilege. They're almost like they're indentured servants.
What's the first order of business when you become mayor?
I got to get the insurance back for the police. It's called qualified immunity. It's a $5 word. It's a fancy word. Nobody knows that. You may have seen me in the 2 debates. I tried to explain it to the public. Police officers now can be personally sued for actions that they take. No other civil servants. Look at Andrew Cuomo. He's being sued by 13 women that work for him, one a state trooper, female. And we've already paid out $20 million in settlements. It'll be $60 million when all is said and done, because he had qualified immunity as governor. They all have qualified immunity. Not the cops. The city council took that away in 2021. Eric Adams, I put the bulletproof vest on for 22 years. I was a cop. He was a house mouse. He was never an active cop. But he didn't stand up for the cops. So you can't retain cops. You can't recruit cops if you don't provide the same insurance that all civil servants have.
But do you think that was the direct result of that action kind of lowered police brutality and people being shot?
Well, look, there's no doubt it was police brutality. I was a victim of police brutality. Remember,
as a victim of police brutality.
Not only that, stop and frisk. They used to stop me and frisk me all the time. Hey, Sliwa, come over here.
Right. So
well, let me
I'm trying
explain.
to figure out if you've
explain.
been on the receiving end,
Right.
Why remove the thing that keeps people from being victimized?
First off, the police department then was completely different than now. It's a majority police department. Most of the men and women are minorities who are the majority. It's not the old white ethnics any longer. They're being phased out. They're not joining like they used to join. The recommendations are their fathers, their mothers, their grandparents. By the way, you get 5 points on the test if you live in New York City, which helps. Because 5 points on the test helps you to become a police officer. But I also know the pressures that they were put under. Let's look at stop and frisk. I saw it when Bill Bratton first did it with Rudy Giuliani. That was his first police commissioner, then Safer, then Kerry. They got about 150,000 stop and frisk a year.
Right.
It was challenged in court. It was proven to be constitutional. Then Bloomberg, who knows nothing about the streets, he knows Wall Street. He knows who gots about the streets. He demands that there's a quota. 5 a day, you had to fill out a 250 index card. Every cop would have to do 5 stop and frisks a day. So what do? You wait to the end of the day. You haven't stopped anybody yet. You see 5 guys of color walk out of the train station, up against the wall, search them. Nickel, dime bags, here, there. If you did that on Wall Street, you'd be coming up with cocaine. You did it anywhere else, you're going to find contraband.
Right.
Bloomberg wanted numbers. Patty Lynch, who was the PBA president, publicly said, you're killing us in the inner city. We're being forced to do stop and frisk, not because of probable cause, because there's a bulge here and we think it's a gun. No, because we got to fill out these stupid 250 forms so that your numbers can look good.
Right.
And then remember when he decided to buy the presidency, how did that work out? $1 billion, all he got was America's Samoa. And Warren, remember Elizabeth Warren eviscerated him like Kill Bill twice on the stage. He then went on an apology tour. Remember? He went to A.R. Bernard's church, Pennsylvania Avenue, Linden Boulevard, Canarsie, that mega church. I'm sorry. Forgive me for stopping frisk. You imposed a quota. Quotas are bad for tickets.
Yeah.
They're horrible when you put it on human beings. And ICE now has quotas, which means instead of going after the bad hombres, the drug dealers, the gangbangers, the sex traffickers, the narco-terrorists, now they're having to pick up guys and gals who are working to feed their families who become essential workers. Because you think my 3 sons are going to work in the back of a restaurant or in the hospitality industry or pick crops or pack crops or work in a slaughterhouse? We need them. They're essential workers. As long as they're not committing crime. Right. We got to figure out a way for them to stay because they're not all going back. I tell my Republicans, there's like 20 million migrants. What do you think they're all going back? Now, if they're here to commit crime, yes. But if they're working hard and they're providing us essential services that Americans won't do, most Americans won't do those jobs, why are we having ICE pick them up just to meet a quota? And I know ICE agents, some who are former guardian angels, say, this is bad, Curtis, this quota. Before, we had to go out, we had to really do investigation because bad guys, bad gals know how to hide in the shadows.
I was a victim of that a lot of times, just minding my business. And, it was really uncomfortable.
Of course.
I had to avoid certain places because I knew there would be heavy police presence there.
Right, and remember, you could blame the police. It's easy because they're the boys and girls in blue. But it was Bloomberg who enforced that quota. That's why I have no respect for him. That's why I'm telling you, billionaires, oofa. Influencers, insiders, oofa. What did he know about the streets? He would need a GPS if he had to drive around the city. Remember what he said about Queens? Oh, the only reason that Queens exists is so I could go to JFK and fly to the Bahamas. And people in Queens, that's a diss and a dismiss.
Right.
That's why Queens exists, so that you can go over the Triborough Bridge, down the Grand Central, the Van Wyck to JFK to take your private jet to the Bahamas. You see how they have a disdain for working class people? And he wasn't born that way. He was the son of a mail delivery guy. He didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. Came up with a good idea, these machines. He made his money fair and square. But he has no sense for working class people.
I believe that because when the transit workers went on strike in 2005, he called us thugs.
Yeah.
And we was hardworking. I wasn't on the job at the time, but he viewed us as thugs at the time. So kind of makes sense.
Well, most transit workers are people of color.
Yeah.
You could extrapolate from that. Does he believe a stereotype that black and Hispanics are thugs?
Wow.
They'll never explain themselves. But when you get into that world, I've been in those conversations. My God, what they think of average working class people. And many of them used to be working class. But they reach a certain level. They think they're entitled. They think they're better than everyone else. And they think that everybody has a price. That's a Italian expression.
Right. All right. So listening to you, what you were saying about ICE, how do you feel about everything that's going on? If you were elected, what would you do about it?
Well, you're not going to bump chests with Donald Trump. Zoran, he's a macho man. By the way, he can't even pick up his own paperclip. We saw that, right? Then Andrew Cuomo, I'll be tougher. First of all, Donald Trump has you by the short hairs. He controls the money. You want to fight Donald Trump? He loves to fight. Look at what he did to Zelensky when he came in the White House. 3 days later, Zelensky, the art of the deal. Now, all of a sudden, Trump is helping Zelensky against Putin. You can't beat Donald Trump. Remember, He doesn't necessarily like me. Remember, his first choice for mayor was Eric Adams,
Yes,
then
I saw
Andrew
that.
Cuomo.
Yeah.
I don't take it personally. But what you do with Donald Trump and whoever he assigns, it's the art of the deal. So you say in this case, look, let me talk to Tom Homan. He's the tough guy. He reminds me of Cool Hand Luke. Remember the sheriff in Cool Hand Luke with Clint Eastwood? Not Clint Eastwood, but with Paul Newman. Remember Paul? Yes, boss. Yes, boss.
Right.
That was Eric Adams on the couch of Fox and Friends. Tom Homan said, and when I come back, I'm going to put a boot up your butt if the NYPD ain't working with ICE. And there was Eric Adams. Yes, boss. Yes, boss. Just like Paul Newman to the sheriff in Cool. You know how many black people show me that? I lost all respect for Eric Adams after that. He didn't blink. He didn't wince. He didn't say, yo, Tom, man, don't be talking to me like that. He took it because Trump saved him from going to jail. Was that not the most humiliating thing you ever saw for a black man? A mayor of the largest city in America. Remember, black-centric.
But Kurt, what would you do to change things? I know you said you can't fight with Trump, but what could you do?
Well, what you do is, it's the art of the deal. He likes the deal. You deal with the people that he's assigned to this. You say, Tom, you see how your ICE agents, people are fighting your ICE agents in the street. Do you want them to be under threat, or do you want them to be able to do their job? I'm telling you, I'm street smart, Tom. Tom would respect me as being street smart. You want to know where the bad hombres are? We'll help you find the bad hombres. Drug dealers, sex traffickers, narco-terrorists, gangbangers, yes. But when you go after the low-hanging fruit, you turn the community against you. And I can't guarantee the safety of ICE agents because we live under the rules of a sanctuary city. Now, I would have put it on the back of the ballot initiative and referendum. I'm not for sanctuary city, but I would have left it up to the people. And if the people decide we want to be a sanctuary city, well, you're the mayor. You got to do what the law says. Right now, the law is you cannot cooperate with ICE on criminal matters, only civil matters. That's the problem.
Wow.
That's the problem right there. There should be cooperation, but ICE cannot be heavy-handed. If I'm going to court in Foley Square because I got a card when I came through the portal, I did what I was told to do, and they paroled me in across the border, Mayorkas at that time, and it says, on March 26th, you have to be in federal court at Foley Square, and I show up on time to the right court, and I'm following the process, I shouldn't be snatched up for deportation because you're trying to make a quota. And that's what's turning the community against ICE. They have this quota, just like with stop and frisk. I would say, I'm going to talk out against the quota. You cannot have a quota. First of all, I'm against quotas for tickets, moving violations and parking tickets. The sergeant says a moving violation and a parking ticket a day keeps the sergeant away. There's $1 billion in tickets built in. Quotas that all these departments have at the end of the month. You notice they're writing up on everything. Right. That's bad enough. But when you put quotas on human beings, stop and frisk, ICE detentions, you have to stand up respectfully. If you don't show respect to Trump, guess what? He's going to make the people in New York City suffer. He's already cut Medicaid. He's cut food stamps. He wants to cut NYCHA. Where are these people going to live if he cuts the funds for NYCHA? And he has said if Zoran Mandami gets elected mayor, he'll withhold $7 billion of federal funding, which would have been the funds for his universal child care. But you see, if you bump chests, you're not going to get what you want. And who do you fall back on and blame? You blame Trump. Oh, Trump did it. I would have done it. First of all, you wouldn't have been able to do it. Your fantasy is not a reality. And Andrew Cuomo, he's a dua faccia. You know, I'll bump chest with Trump. Anytime he's on the phone, please, Trump, get Curtis Sliwa out of the race. I can't win this race unless Curtis Sliwa's out. Please, pretty please, with sugar and plums on top. That fake, phony, fraudulent, fugazi Andrew Cuomo.
Now, you know what's strange about that is that you brought it up just now. If Mamdani wins, Trump said that he's going to cut the federal funding, right? Now, Mamdani is one person. And we know Trump loves a war. He loves to fight, like you said, right? Why nobody is encouraging Mamdani to step down? Because he's probably the right guy at the wrong time, what people would say, right? Because Trump is going to bring it to New York. So do you believe that he should step down instead of Cuomo?
No, nobody should step down. This is a democracy. People vote. If they vote Zoran Mandami in, they will have to live with the consequences. If they don't vote me in, I will turn to people and say, now you must suffer.
But he didn't say that about Cuomo or you.
Right.
He just said with you're not ready for prime time.
Right, because he's called Zoran Mandami a terrorist. No, not a terrorist. He hasn't. Others have. Communist, a socialist. It's like, first of all, he's not a communist. He's a socialist. We've had socialists here before. David Dinkins was a member of the DSA. Mm-hmm. Who did Andrew Cuomo in the debate say was the best mayor? David Dinkins. Now he can't criticize Zoran Mandami and, oh, you're a socialist communist. Desperate people do desperate things. He is what he says he is. He says, I'm a socialist. I'm a member of the DSA. Guess what? They are members of the Democratic Party. Your party, Andrew Cuomo, you let them in. They've taken over. You got a battle. But with Zoran Mandami, if they were to elect him, my attitude to people was, you picked him, now you must suffer. I will be here to fight for what I know is right. I believe in prove, don't move. I'm not going to flee like so many others. Oh, socialists. Come on, we've had socialists before.
Chris, what do you foresee for the future in New York?
There's mass flight anyway. Forget Zoran Mandami. You don't have to be in New York anymore to do business. It used to be you had to have a shingle in New York, even if you took a loss as a business. Now you can be in Waterloo, Iowa in this global economy. So if you're taxing people, income tax, property tax, the mayor can control property tax. It's 20% now. You used to live here with a house because you say, oh, it's not like Nassau, Suffolk County, Westchester, Northern New Jersey, because their property tax supports their public school system. Now the property tax is the same thing. What do you get in return? You get bupkis in return. So all these taxes keep going up. You got to slash them. You got to shrink the budget. We don't have the money. This is common sense. But the Democrats, they just think the good times are going to continue. We don't have the COVID money anymore. Remember, we were getting COVID money. Right. That's over. So you're addicted. It's almost like you have a needle with COVID money. Right. You're used to all that COVID money. It's no longer there. And you don't know how to operate within your means. If I tell you that you can't have this because you don't have enough money in your household, you don't get that. But government just seems to think, federal government, we can print money, $38 trillion debt, it keeps going up. Democrats, Republicans, state government has to balance its budget, city government has to balance its budget. But they're always thinking that they can pick your pockets more and more, taxpayer. Fees, fines, like speed cameras. $150, they clip you. Put speed bumps. Right? That'll slow you down. And by the way, if you don't slow down, you're going to be in the fender bender shop because all of a sudden the undercarriage is busted. All of a sudden the ball joints.
Right.
You put speed bumps.
Speed bumps.
They want to tax you from the cradle to the $150 you get clipped. You go down Woodhaven Boulevard, Cross Bay Boulevard. Let's say you're going to Letty's Clam Bar. Everybody loves to go to Letty's Clam Bar.
You go down 4th Avenue.
Right. Right. If you got the app, every 5 seconds, speed camera, speed camera. It doesn't create less accidents. It's only a way to take money from hardworking people.
Right.
That's all it is an excuse. Chris Christie, Shamu El Jefe, Chris Christie, the governor of New Jersey tried that, red light cameras. They went to court, and the judges said, this hasn't stopped any accidents. All you're doing is taking money out of people's pockets. The judge ruled on behalf of people and their vehicles. That has to end. They don't have speed cameras anymore. But here, every few months, more speed cameras. And all they're doing, it's an extra tax, like congestion pricing. South of 60th Street in Manhattan, you pay $9. They really want 18. Soon 18 times 2 will be 36. Look at all the storefronts that are closed now. Right. When you talk to the men and women that had those stores, they tell you, I don't have foot traffic anymore. I can't pay the lease. I can't pay the rent. Government, they're like pack men and pack women.
Look at the bill,
so
Mom done.
You would replace the speed cameras with speed bumps. Basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because let's face it, that'll slow you down.
And look at what Mom Domney doing with the trying to raise the registration fees on cars based off of the weight. We already pay for it now, but he want to increase that. You know about that?
No.
They hate vehicles. If it burns gasoline, diesel, man, they want to put you in the Museum of Natural History. They want everybody like Pee Wee Herman on bicycles. Now, my view about bicycle lanes, we'll put it in there for 6 months. If you don't use it, you lose it. And there are plenty of places in the city with bicycle lanes, they never use it. Now, you go downtown Brooklyn, oh my God, everybody's on a bicycle. Brooklyn Heights, Carroll Gardens, The Slope, they love their bicycles. Okay, they got their bicycle lanes. But there are some neighborhoods. I remember I was teaching my 2 youngest sons Skelly. We all grew up playing Skelly. You put the box there, got the bottle caps. We were sitting on Queens Boulevard. They had a bike lane on a Sunday from 1 to 2. Not one bicycle came through that bike lane. We were able to play Skelly. There were some places, you have bike lanes, you wonder, the hell does anybody use this bike? No, we gotta have bike lanes. And they look at cars and trucks and vans. Evil. We must destroy you. Look at McGinnis Boulevard. Have you seen what they did in the Greenpoint? 1 lane. You got all the industrial complexes there. You got those big trucks.
Makes no
1
sense.
lane, and they got 2 lanes for bicycles, and then you're looking like it ain't the Indianapolis 500. And then you got these crazed drivers on the mopeds, the e-bikes. They're zooming up and down. No license plate, no registration, cameras everywhere, no enforcement. Old people were afraid to walk out into the street. Some have died. And there's no enforcement, no regulation. That all changes when I'm there because I'm out there. I see all this. If you don't enforce, people are going to take advantage of you. And then shame on us for not enforcing.
All right. With unemployment on the rise and groceries skyrocketing, how are we going to fix that?
Well, the biggest shock is going to come to the white-collar workers, the millennials and Gen Zers who are promised if you go to school 4 years, college, you go to graduate school, get your degree, you're a financial analyst, you're a CPA, you're a lawyer. My wife is a millennial, she's a lawyer. So she went to Stony Brook 4 years, she made 400 pizzas a day to put herself through school. And she went to Brooklyn Law. At the beginning of the month, she gets crushed by student loans. I'd rather pay a vig to the Gambino Crime Family. I said, Nancy, you're paying the interest. You're never going to get out of these student loans. My party screwed over the students with this. No, when I went to school, we didn't have shoes on. A deal is a deal. Hey, in the 60s, you barely had student loans back then. You had a lot of free education.
Right.
So here these baby boomers telling these crazy stories. I went to school, 24 inches of snow, you're spoiled. I look at what Nancy and her friends have to pay. It's extortionary. They have no money the rest of the month. And now AI, artificial intelligence, has come. And the corporations are saying, don't worry, it's going to create more jobs. Ma quanto mai, we say in Italian. Really? Greedy corporations are going to save CPAs and financial analysts and lawyers? They don't need you. They got artificial intelligence. And by 2030, we have to have double the amount of electricity. I'm worried about what greedy corporations are going to do to the people we promised the American dream. That's why you have Zoran Mandami. You got a lot of angry millennials and Gen Zers, and rightfully so. They were promised, you go to school, you apply yourself, you get your degree, you have a professional career, you can live the American dream. Here's my wife telling me, Curtis, if we weren't married, I'd still be in a dormitory in an apartment with 3 other roommates saying, what the hell am I doing here? They're mad. It's like the 60s. See, you weren't even born yet. You weren't even dropping your parents' eyes yet. Counterculture in the 60s, I grew up. Don't trust anybody over 30. My parents would say, don't grow your hair long. I grew my hair long. Don't smoke ragweed. You smoke ragweed. Don't go to concerts. I went to concerts. Don't go to the anti-war rally. I went 1 million strong to Washington. Don't vote for George McGovern for president. My first vote, I voted for McGovern, not Nixon. It was whatever your parents and grandparents said, you did exactly reverse. That's what's happening now. I'm worried about white-collar workers, blue-collar workers, but I tell you, one place that we can get good-paying jobs, we got to turn a lot of our high schools into vocational training academies. There is such a demand for skilled labor for men and women tradesmen and tradeswomen, and we're not producing enough of them. We got to give special visas to bring in foreign workers, to have plumbers, electricians, carpenters, home health care aides, a growing industry. As I get older, I'm going to need somebody to change my bedpan and turn me over, and turn the sheets. But the psychology of elderly. We need vocational training. That's where I agree with Donald Trump on. He said we got to turn more of these universities into vocational training. Remember Apex? Remember on TV, the bald guy, refrigeration repair, heating.
Yeah.
You
Come
get a
to
Pell
Apex,
Grant,
yeah.
right? They didn't even teach you in high school. You got the
Right.
Pell Grant, you went there, you had a great career.
Right.
We got to start doing that again. Not everybody is going to survive academically. I remember Bildersee Junior High School, I was in SP, 3-year SP, not 2-year. And I started chasing skirts. And my numbers plummeted. So my guidance counselor, hey, his name was Jordan. Hey, come on here. I want to have a conversation with you. You ever think of culinary, art, metal shop, wood shop? What do you mean, Mr. Jordan? I'm looking at your grades. You know, Westinghouse has a number of great programs downtown Brooklyn. I say, you're telling me I got to go where my cousins went, vocational? I got my rear in gear quick. I didn't want to go to vocational training. If you gave me a pail of nails and a hammer, I wouldn't know what to do with it.
Right.
But the fact is, there are a lot of young men and women cannot handle the academic load. When we went to school in the 60s, there was a general diploma. You got that if you inhaled and exhaled, and you got out of school through social promotion.
Right.
Then you had the regents graduate, and boy, you had to study for that. And then you had
Citywide.
vocational training. What happened to all the vocational schools? Some are still there, but we need double, triple the numbers. And we have a lot of empty school space that can be converted to vocational training.
What about school curriculum? Do you feel like there should be an adjustment in that? Because there's a lot of kids that's learning things that's not helping them with life skills. They're not carrying that throughout life.
Well, let me break it down to you the facts. There are 100,000 less students in school. 1/3 are truants every day. 1/3 of the students don't even go to school. By 4th grade, 2/3 of the children, they're mostly Black and Hispanic kids in the public school system, cannot read, write, or do math at grade level by 4th grade. You say to yourself, well, we're spending $41 billion, $42,000 per student. Where is this money going?
Yeah.
Let's start at the bottom, discipline, because if you don't have discipline in a school, there's chaos. They have now restorative justice. When I was a troublemaker in school, the last person you wanted to see was the dean or your gym teacher.
That's a fact.
Because in the teacher's lounge, the teachers, they would be like talking, and the gym teacher was a musclehead. I'll take care of it. You go to gym class, they would embarrass you. Climb up the rope. Most of the guys couldn't climb up the rope. You look weak. And they kick you in the ass, too, right in front of everybody. You were messing with Mrs. McGillicuddy, you better show respect. Crawl under my desk. Wait there until the end of the period. Now, you can't do that now. Yeah. That poor gym teacher would go to jail. But it created discipline. So now you have restorative justice. Let's say one student hits another student with a baseball bat. You think maybe they should be suspended, expelled, sent to an alternative school? We used to have 600 schools for the really bad behavioral kids. Or maybe even locked up. No. We have restorative justice. I see you're the victim. You're the assailant. I'm your moderator. What do you have to say to this guy that you put in the hospital for a week? Cross my heart, hope to die. I'll never do it again. They know it. They game it. Then they walk out, and this kid says to you, snitches get stitches, end up in ditches. You're mine. You're mine. And now you go back into the same classroom. And likewise, when a teacher gets assaulted, they go back, they put him back in the same classroom. Restorative justice has to go. Because if you lose control of the classroom, there are a lot of decent, well-behaved children who want to learn. They're there to learn, and they can't because you got a few troublemakers.
What would you put in place of that?
You have alternative schools. We used to call them 600 schools. You can give them a nice fancy name, but really they're hard to handle kids who will probably come from a dysfunctional background who need extra special care. They're entitled to an education, but you can't mix them with the normal student body because then nobody learns. And teachers are frightened. How many teachers that I've gone into a class and I'm there to speak? Half the kids got their heads down, pretending they're sleeping. The other half are in the back talking, joking. The teacher has no control of the classroom. And then I closed the door. I said, Curtis Sliwa's here. You better behave. Well, what are you going to do? Okay. And then they grab the one kid. Oh, you can't do that. I just did. What are you going to do? Oh, no, you can't do that. And then the teacher's having, coronary attack. You can't do that. Go ahead, lock me up. I always say, I had handcuffs on me. But this kid is disrespecting you. I'm just getting control of the kid. He's swinging and winging at everybody. You gotta be able to put your hands on kids who are out to harm other kids or the teachers, or if let's say you're the dean, nobody would ever lift their hands to the dean. The dean, when he came into the classroom, you go down into the dean's room, please don't call my mommy. Don't let her know that, because by the time you got home, oh man, whatever the dean gave you, your whole family lined up and gave you. Mm-hmm. That almost never happens anymore. Now it's like, I'm going to sue you. You touched my son. You touched my daughter. Right. Excuse me. They were disrespecting, disrupting. They were hurting teachers. And what, you're supposed to distance you? This is insanity.
But the problem is deeper than that, because even in the homes, you can't put hands on the kids.
Correct. Right. So I'll call child welfare.
Yeah. You got kids threatening their parents.
Oh, it's worse. You got the single mother raising the family, and a guy has, extra testosterone crashing through his cranium, and he's threatening his mom. I've been called in with the guardian angels to deal with those circumstances by women, sometimes working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. Come here, young man. You're a guardian angel now. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. You're coming with us because you're disrespecting your mother. Look, your mother's afraid of you. Your mother looks at you. Nobody ever talks to these kids. They're human beings. They're used to being yelled at. You take your voice down. You treat him like a human being. You have a conversation. Why are you disrespecting him? Whoa, come on. You see what she goes through? You think she had an easy life? She probably had a more difficult life than you're complaining about. Your mom loves you. That's why she called us. Yeah. Nobody ever talks to them like human beings. You would be surprised at what a difference that makes. I've rescued probably thousands of young men and women in the Guardian Angels through the years who really would have been enemies of society because they came from dysfunctional households. Or their role models were the worst possible male role models you could have in life. Somebody standing on the corner saying, oh, you went to juvie jail, you went to Rikers, man, you got to go upstate, man. See, I'm all buffed up. And I walk up to those guys, why are you saying this? And all these kids are wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, listening to these tales. We have to eliminate that by challenging these men, saying, look, you made mistakes. You think prison was good? Think of all these kids. There's this famous movie. I don't know if you ever watched Angels with Dirty Faces.
Angels with Dirty Faces.
Jimmy Cagney was the roughest of the rough. And Pat O'Brien was the priest. And he's on death row. Back then they used to put the juice in the caboose and sing. Jews, African Americans, Italians, Irish. Man, they had an assembly line at the execution chamber. He said, I don't want you to walk those last few steps like a tough guy. I want you to be an example to these young men who want to follow in your footsteps. Get out of here, Father. Get out of my face. Something dawned on Jimmy Cagney when he was walking that last 100 yards. Remember he started crying and yelling? Was it real? Or was he doing that so that other kids wouldn't make the same mistake? And the Bowery Boys were all listening. They heard this. People would say, oh, man, he punked out. And they were disappointed. But the priest in the movie, Pat O'Brien, said, he did the right thing.
Wow.
You see, that's the key. We have to have compassion, concern, caring. We don't need tough guys. I'm the toughest of the tough guys. We need compassion, caring. We don't have that in mayors anymore. Everybody wants to be tough. Real tough guys don't have to tell you they're tough. When a guy has to tell you they're tough, you think Donald Trump ever had a fight growing up?
No.
You think Rudy Giuliani ever had a fight growing up? You think Shamu El Jefe Chris Christie ever had a fight growing up? No. They never had fights. You could tell who's had fights and who hasn't had fights. But they like to be bullies. And you got to stop that, because then everybody imitates being a bully because bullies get what they want. You got to say, no. When you're a bully, you don't get what you want. In fact, you get to the back of the line. But that takes time and patience. It doesn't happen. Everybody wants instant Jell-O pudding pot pie solutions. You got to be changed. No. It took decades to get this way. It's going to take a long time for us to straighten it out. But you got to have patience. And I've been in the streets, so I've seen this.
November 4th. What are you hoping for?
Excuse me?
The 4th. This is the 6th.
November 4th.
November 4th.
Right. By the nighttime, by 9 o'clock, we should know who the new mayor is. Win, lose, or draw, I'm here. I ain't going nowhere. Everybody, stop it. You're a grown man. Wake up. It's Father Brand, all right? You're a man, right?
Right.
Hey, you're a man. I've never seen such a bunch of wusses in my life.
Yeah.
Grown men. I'm frightened of Zoran Mandami and the socialists. Well, go out and get a vote. If you want to elect Andrew Cuomo or Curtis Sliwa, or maybe the next time if he wins, fight. But crying, breaking down, I'm afraid I'm going to flee. I can't take it anymore. You might as well get the body alert. I'm falling and I can't get up. I'm telling you, these young people, millennials and Gen Zers, they say, we got them. Look, they're afraid of us. It's like little punks in the street. It's 60 pounds soaking wet. They walk down because they're mugging you. You know, they're mad dogging you, fornicating you. Grown men, you're start. Whoa. That empowers them. Same thing with the socialists. Same thing. They feel the fear. You got to show strength. When you show fear, it's over. You lost. You might as well pack your bags and leave now. If you're fearful, you are a loser. You can never win when you're afraid. You stand up and you fight for what is right. At least you have a pretty good shot of winning. But if you're fearful, you lose every time.
You think Mom Donnie could have made the cut to be a guardian angel?
That the country?
No, could he have made the cut to be a guardian angel? Zoran.
Hell no. He can't even lift his body.
Could he walk?
He can't even.
Would you say what's called the Apache line?
The Apache line.
I don't think when Zoran got roped into lifting those weights, he can't even lift a paperclip. You know, he's a bright young man. He went to Bronx Science, well-spoken. He's very affable. I mean, when I was in England organizing the Guardian Angel and Sade's song came out, Smooth Operator, oh man, that is Zoran Mandami. He is a smooth operator. And I tell people, he's like a Pinocchio, except his nose doesn't grow when he lies. His smile gets bigger. That's how you know he's lying.
Wow.
But it's all fantasy. It's not reality. I say don't trust any politician. Don't trust me. Keep my feet to the fire. Anything I say, you must challenge. If it don't sound right, it probably ain't right.
Right.
Challenge authority. Every citizen in this country has the right to challenge authority, and that's what I believe. Never accept what you hear. Process it, think about it. If there's something wrong with it, fight back. That's the American way.
Curtis Sliwa, y'all. Thank you, brother.
My pleasure.
Thank you, man.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, this is great.
I don't get a fade here.
This Hoffa, trapper turn smack rapper. Only smack rapper that you know is smack rapper.